Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
Welcome to the Situation Room. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Nduoko is in the building. Ndu, good morning.
Good morning, Eric Latif.
Me, I'm fine. And you?
I am fine.
Very
Glad
good.
to know that you're also fine.
Yeah. Just preempting the questions.
Oh, so you just decided to go ahead before I even asked you. Who told you I want to know?
Yeah. I know that you don't like asking me, so
I always want to know about your well-being, Eric.
So now there you go. See that question you asked earlier?
Which one?
Who told me I want to know?
Now that's what I'm saying. You don't preempt. You wait.
Who
And you
told
don't
me?
assume.
I know you always want to know.
Hey,
See,
okay.
you've just answered.
My goodness.
CT Muga. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
You well?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Life treating you well?
It is. So far.
So far, so good. Huh? Good
So
stuff.
far, so good.
Good stuff.
Can't complain.
The that is very good.
It's very good, isn't it?
Lovely, in fact. Today's Wednesday, isn't it?
So they say.
I got that one right today.
It's Wednesday, the 9th day of December, 2020. Coming close to the Jamhuri Day. You know, after Jamhuri Day, it's like that's when the country just ushers itself into Christmas. Offices close. If you have anyone who owes you money, and it's an organization, this is the week.
After
They don't
this,
pay you this week.
next year.
Tungoje January.
February.
January, they'll tell you, the boss is away, extended their leave until the 20th.
They can't sign.
I'm telling you, it will start with COVID. You know, COVID helps you with everything. COVID explains everything. Why have we not done this? COVID. How does it arise? COVID.
But you've been late for a year.
COVID.
Yeah.
Even before COVID started, you had
COVID.
not paid me.
Yeah, now COVID came.
Now COVID
I was
came.
just about to pay you when COVID came.
Then COVID interfered with everything.
It's been a year.
Yeah.
COVID.
It's not fair.
So this is the time. If anyone owes you money, if you owe anybody any money,
COVID.
duck this week, and then now from next week. I traveled for Christmas.
Wow.
You see, that's where we go wrong. You don't have money and yet you traveled.
I traveled for Christmas.
And then you even forget and start telling us the things you did for Christmas, which all involve expenditure.
See, it is one of those landlords who, because you haven't paid rent this month, usikule nyama kwa nyumba yako.
No, kula tu nje. then
Wewe.
Kuja kama umepanguza mdomo.
Unapika nyama na hujalipa rent.
Because you don't have money for rent, you should starve in your house.
Yes.
Yes.
There are landlords like that, by the way.
If you haven't paid rent, eat.
I'm going to be checking on you. You shouldn't be eating.
No,
Drinking-
eat by all
drinking water
means.
and chewing
And you
leaves.
really must eat some really amorphous vegetables. Yes.
Kula tu mboga.
None of these expensive type vegetables that these funky, newfangled.
Ati chapati. Na
Chapati.
hujalipa rent.
Pana.
Kona mchezo. Welcome to the show, everybody. Today is International Anti-Corruption Day. It's a day that we all celebrate. Everybody is happy this year when it comes to matters of corruption. Those who are involved in the fight against corruption have something to celebrate. Those who partake of corruption have something to celebrate. Na sisi mashabiki pia, we have something to celebrate. We'll be talking about corruption throughout the show today. We'll have a conversation with the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. We'll speak to a legislator on matters of corruption. We'll also speak to religious leader on matters of corruption. And then we'll also speak to a person from the judiciary on matters corruption. So we've covered everything. Now, the only person we haven't talked to here is a corrupt person. And so we'll ask you to call in if you're corrupt. and we'll give you right of reply. But let's begin with this corrupt thing called COVID-19.
Still looking crazy, guys. Now, the world added an extra 1 million cases of COVID yesterday.
Okay.
In 24 hours, another 1 million cases of COVID was recorded.
Okay.
And now the death toll globally stands at 1.5 million. That's 1,562,895. The United States now at 15.5 million. India at 9.7 million. And if you want to look at let's just look at what the USA recorded yesterday. Again, now they've entered winter proper. And so they're looking at temperatures of 4 degrees, 3 degrees, 0. And so with the cold, what is being said now is that you're likely to see higher rates of infection, coupled with the travel that took place 2 weeks ago, coupled with the travel that's going to take place over the Christmas period. You're likely to see crazy, crazy numbers coming out of the US in January. So what did we see yesterday in terms of what they reported? 208,121 new cases in the US with 2,913 deaths. So of the 1 million cases that were recorded globally, the United States contributed on its own a fifth of those cases. I'm not saying it like it's a good thing, but a fifth of the cases reported globally that came up to 1 million came out of the United States. Not looking very good here. And then in terms of hospitalizations, states have recorded the highest. We thought that 3 weeks ago that they had recorded the highest in terms of hospitalizations, but now things are looking crazy. The president-elect, Joe Biden, is aiming for 100 million vaccine doses in the first 100 days of his presidency. So he's looking that a third of the population of the United States will be vaccinated for COVID-19. And so these are some of the promises that he's made. We already know that he's put together a special COVID-19 task force and has already suggested some names in terms of appointees. So, I mean, he's not joking with this one. And he's trying to say, okay, let's get people well and curb this thing. And then we can move into other matters in terms of policy and development for the United States. Okay, so that's what's going on there. So we're looking at some high numbers coming out of the United States. Okay? And looking at other countries in the world, some cases have started to drop. We're still seeing some high numbers, like in Mexico, for example. Yesterday, 11,000 cases. This is the highest number ever recorded in the Central American nation. And they also are really, really grappling with this one. They're not really sure what to do. 800 new deaths is what they've seen. And they have never had a reprieve. In the last 4 months, Mexico has not been in a situation where their cases have been dropping. They have been continually rising, and right now they are at their worst. Let's not forget that they border the United States. Even with border restrictions and such, the borders still remain quite porous and people are crossing back and forth at will. And yeah.
So vaccinations, the UK has started.
The UK has started vaccinations. We saw that story come out yesterday about this 90-year-old woman who was the first to receive the vaccine in the UK. And it's likely to go across the nation with rapid speed as much as they can with this. And trying to see how that...
See, the issue with the vaccine, and this I think must be stated categorically, it is not a cure. Because
it's not a cure.
But it's being treated as such. You talk to people and they're telling you, now we don't have to worry about COVID because there's a vaccine.
The vaccine has come.
Yes. Vaccine will not cure you. Neither will it stop you from getting COVID. What it does is it trains your immune system to understand, recognize the disease, and to mount a response to it.
So you can still get COVID?
By all means, you
Even
can.
after you've been vaccinated?
Yes, you can, but it will not harm you. The reason why a new virus harms you is because your body doesn't know what to do with it. Your body cannot mount a defense. So it attacks, it's like it has free reign. It does what it likes. But with the vaccine, what then the vaccine will have done, it will have introduced a very small portion of this very virus into your body. So your body is not a stranger to it. So should it come now in full force, the body knows what it is. And the body knows exactly what to do with it.
Okay.
Yes. That is why anybody
how long does it take between injection and the vaccine becoming effective in your body?
Let's put it to you this way. It depends on what sort of vaccine, but the period usually isn't long. If you hear me being convoluted as this, it means I'm not sure. But one of the effects that you will have with many vaccines, you will feel unwell.
You'll feel
Unwell, yes.
they're introducing a disease
Yes.
Into you.
But that's exactly what they're doing.
into your body.
You will feel unwell.
Why?
You will feel unwell.
Okay.
And when you overcome the unwellness, now is when your body will have understood it and will have acclimatized. Remember, that feeling unwell is the process of your body fighting it and acclimatizing to it. That's why you're feeling unwell.
It is.
Okay.
Let's look quick at Kenya's case. It is now at 89,100. We're looking at 1,545 deaths so far. What was recorded yesterday? 521 new cases in the country, 14 new deaths having been reported in Kenya. And still, keeping quite mum about how we're going to fight this. We did hear from the Ministry of Health how sorry they were for the death of Dr. Mugusu. And
they said they're sorry.
Yes. CAS Mercy Mwangangi yesterday was on the podium, and she said a couple of things yesterday, but she said, look, we're trying to sort this out. We're trying to sort out the NHIF issue. We're trying to make sure that insurance is accorded to everybody who is fighting on the front lines. And in terms of compensation for Dr. Mugusu and his family, we are working on that.
All right.
So rest assured that we take these things very seriously, and we are doing all that we can to make sure that we right this wrong.
Have they waived the
And that
fees?
we don't, and that it doesn't happen in the future.
So they haven't waived the bill from Kenyatta University.
She said that measures are being taken to take care of the bill. Those are the words she used, to take care of the bill.
Okay.
Yeah.
The real weight is on the family. His immediate family, his parents who are alive. If you don't know the person, he's just another person who has passed away. It's not just another doctor. But when you consider the length of time it takes to actually train one doctor, and the sort of investment that goes into training that one doctor, and we forget the sacrifices that families undergo in order for that person to actually complete that course that they have done, it is not a small loss.
It's not a small thing. It isn't.
It's not a small loss.
Just after everything else, if you read his story and the family narrating his story, from how he was a bright kid in some rural school, he went into another school where he did very well, went to Lenana, he did very well, went to university, and it was all a struggle through and through. When he was going to Lenana, the parents did not have the school fees. Lenana allowed him to actually come in, and then the parents would now go back home and start raising money. During this COVID time when he was ill, the parents were raising money to take him to hospital.
For his daily care. Yeah.
His parents who already didn't have the means.
Yeah.
And we are doing everything we can, is what we are saying now.
After his death.
This thing that we're doing is what exactly? Here we are talking about doctors who work to prevent people from getting diseases, who actually work to ensure that if you get it, you are well. What do we do for them? Because it's the same question that I ask about policemen. Here we are demanding all these things. Do we equip these people to ensure that the demands that we expect are actually met? Are they able to meet these demands? Now the question is being asked of doctors. We expect doctors to save lives, to do all these things, to sacrifice, to be considerate. Okay, fine. Do we equip them? Do we provide them with an ecosystem within which they can carry out their functions well? Yes.
Time for us to take a break. It's 6:15. We are live streaming on Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and spicefm.co.ke. Say hello. We are seeing many are already online. We'll be saying hello to you shortly, and then we'll take a look at the weather. Good morning.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Hii krisi tukiwapea mtawezana. Star Times brings you the FKF Premier League. Hii ligi ni yetu, tuende nayo. You can also enjoy the Europa League, La Liga and FA Cup. To enjoy, simply get a satellite dish for only 2,699 shillings and aerial decoder for only 1,499 shillings and watch the FKF Premier League live and in HD exclusively on BTV channel 172 and 463. Recharge for 2 months and get upgraded for 2 months or call 0719 077 000.
Next week on The Great Kenyan Bake Off.
Thank you.
It's the final.
All right, let's do this.
My hands are not shaking right now.
Hopefully, nothing goes wrong today.
Our last 3 intrepid bakers will have to bring out their absolute A
You
game.
ready for some smoke?
Watch as they
Ooh.
battle it out in a technical that really challenges their skills and a showstopper that will push their creativity to the limit. Don't miss the drama as we find out who will be crowned Kenya's next top amateur baker.
And the winner is...
The Great Kenyan Bake Off, brought to you by Unga Limited, inspiring a nation to bake.
The weather with
All right,
Spice
a bit
FM.
of a rainy morning in Nairobi today. We're looking at rain for most of the morning, mostly cloudy conditions, going to a high of 25 and coming down to lows of 18. Looking at Nakuru, it's mostly clear at 15, going to highs of 26 and lows of 13, and clear conditions at the moment. It's cloudy in Nyeri at 13. The high will be 23 today, coming back down to lows of 13. It's clear at 14 in Eldoret. At 23, that'll be the high, coming then down to lows of 13. Mostly cloudy in Kisumu at 18 degrees. The chance of rain later, 30% chance, highs of 27 and lows of 18. Where there's a 20% chance of rain in Kakamega this morning. It's mostly cloudy at 14, going to highs of 30. It's raining this morning in Mombasa at 25, highs of 30 and lows of 25. And mostly cloudy conditions in Malindi will lead to some rain later, highs of 28 and lows of 15. Clear conditions in Kampala at 19, highs of 26 and lows of 19. And we're looking at mostly cloudy conditions in Dar es Salaam, highs of 31 and lows of 26. It's clear in Johannesburg at 15, highs of 23 today. And clear in Lagos for a change this morning at 26. It'll be a warm day, however, going to highs of 32 and lows of 25. Finally, it's clear in Kinshasa at 21, highs of 32 and lows of 21. It's sunny in Beijing, however, it's below freezing at -2. It'll only go to a high of 4 today and come back down to a low of -4. Also freezing in Paris at -1 and mostly clear, highs of 6 and lows of -1. London is slightly warmer today at 6 degrees, going to high of 7 and lows of 5 with mostly cloudy conditions and a chance of rain not too far from now. Looking into New York, still Tuesday night at 2 degrees. Coming into Wednesday, it'll only go to a high of 4 and rounded down to a low of 0.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
Good
Nairobi.
morning, everybody. 19 minutes after 6. This is Kenya's biggest conversation on this 9th day of December 2020. Who is online on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, or YouTube?
Everybody. We know that Shirage is already on the commuter train and he's leaving in a few minutes, but he's also tuned into the Situation Room. Titus Mbeta is tuned in as well. Good morning, as is Lawrence Carrier. Good morning. Glad to join in. We are glad you've joined in as well.
Right.
Waterman Jeffrey's tuned from Minneapolis and says good morning. Charity
Walter who?
Waterman Jeffrey.
Waterman Jeffrey.
Or Jeffrey Waterman.
All right.
Charity Minor has says good morning to Eric Latif. Only.
Good morning, Charity.
And Nakuru is tuned in.
How are you, Charity?
Oh, wow. Okay.
These others are jealous, Charity. Just write another message and say hello to them as well.
Alex Mbogo says good morning live from Kamwenja. And Macha is tuned in, Beta Ashley. Susan Kanyoko says, good morning. Makes my 12-year-old daughter so interested to know and follow up on the situation and the governance status in this nation. God bless you. Tuned in from Kabondo. Guru David says, good morning. Listening from Limuru. And Benson Mumo says, good morning. Reagan Hanskel Nyandinga Jr. is logged in from Afmadao. City.
Afmado.
Afmado.
Yes.
Where is this?
Somalia.
Oh, fantastic.
Right.
Okay. Adam Zakaria tuned in this morning from Ghana, and he has also voted. Later in the day, the Electoral Commission will declare the results of the Ghanaian election.
All
Let's
right.
wait and see what that looks like. And finally, Handel Juma is tuned in from Rabai. Good morning, everybody.
It never misses, Handel. Karibu sana kila mtu. City, today's proverb.
Well, today's proverb has to be accompanied by other proverbs. And for this very reason, it is a very interesting day. You know, we mark all sorts of days on this planet. Day for this, day for that, day for the other. Today, I think, begins that particular day when we mark the day for?
Today. No? Okay.
Anti-corruption, for heaven's sake.
Not in the day?
It's not corruption day. It's not a day for you to feel
Today
free.
is a day for celebrating corruption.
No, it isn't. But any time societies have come across ill-doing, it is people who are in this line of business that we're in who usually point it out. Some of them are people who write books, novelists. Some are poets, but people in the artistic field. What came to my mind, the person who came to my mind was somebody who most people do not know was actually black, Alexander Dumas. Otherwise known as Alexander Dumas. But alongside him, there was yet another novelist, dramatist, poet by the name of Victor Hugo. And this is what Victor Hugo had to say. He wasn't African, he wasn't black. He said, the soul is left in darkness. If the soul is left in darkness, sins will be committed. The guilty one is not the one who commits sin, but the one who causes darkness. Now, this is a quote from one of his books. Ndu, you'll help me pronounce this. Le, I know is the fun, L-E-S, less.
Les
Then miserables.
Miserables.
See, I knew I needed assistance with this one here. Yes, that is what Victor Hugo had to say. And if you look at what we are celebrating today, what we are marking the day as, I think...
We are miserable.
Yes. Actually, misery is afoot. However, accompanying this misery is today's African quote. This is a Cameroonian quote. There are no shortcuts to the top of a palm tree.
There are no shortcuts?
To the top of a palm tree.
Okay.
I bring this up because the pursuit of shortcuts often leads to corruption.
And misery.
And misery.
Okay. There are no shortcuts to the top of a palm tree. You can cut the palm tree.
But if you want to tap the wine,
And
my
in
friend,
fact, so you don't even have to climb it. You just need to step on it.
You're sorted.
Completely.
That's what we do. So let's look at the headlines.
shall we?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so let's start with this story that came out yesterday, but then... Okay, as we go back to COVID stories. But Makweni MP says tutor in custody can't harm a fly. Investigators said to be waiting for the lab and forensic reports. The leadership of Makweni County yesterday came to the defense of a woman who was arrested after Machako Senator Boniface Kabaka was hospitalized following a sudden illness. Makweni Governor Kivudo Kibwana described Esther Ndenya Muli as a caring lady, while Makweni MP Daniel Manzo, who is her lawyer, said she's a harmless woman of repute, caught up in issues she had nothing to do with. In Kilimani, where Manzo spent the better part of yesterday, police were said to be considering releasing Muli after tests conducted at Nairobi Hospital reportedly ruled out the possibility of the senator being poisoned. A caring lady from Makweni who takes a gentleman in distress to hospital cannot be a murderer. She deserves bail and justice, according to Professor Kibwana. And this is what he posted on social media, where he also wished Kabaka a quick recovery. Muli was in the company of the senator at an apartment in Kilimani Estate when he mysteriously fell ill. So now, after having arrested her and such, and then...
Now, because of political pressure...
they're thinking of releasing her.
Well, this one may be innocent after all.
Sorry.
Hakuna ubaya. Ilikuwa tu tunakushika.
Roho safi.
Roho safi tu, lazima tuchunguze hii maneno. Tunaweza. But they haven't released her.
Not yet.
They're
No.
Still considering. Just considering you can take 24 hours.
You know, like I said yesterday, you can imagine what she went through. Somebody collapses in your presence. It is not a simple thing.
Well,
And you took them to hospital.
my friend,
And you are now the one who's calling an ambulance. You're not their immediate family. You don't even know. So what happens after?
You know, the initial instinct is to run away.
Yes.
The initial instinct is to say, hold on, what's going on here? Let me be gone before anybody finds me in this.
Wait.
But she took him to hospital.
She's done all those things, and then the next thing is, in case everyone died.
Slap the bracelets on.
why don't we pause for a while and take the point of view of the policeman?
Okay.
This is a senator.
All right.
He has collapsed.
Right.
So that nobody blames you for not taking action.
For not, yes.
You move swiftly and apprehend the person who is nearest to you.
True.
And that is this person who has brought them to hospital.
Yeah.
So they fall into the category of suspect number one.
True.
Okay? Why were you near him so that you could take him to hospital? Essentially asking, why were you doing a good deed? Okay?
Why were you here in the first
We are going to arrest you for doing this good deed
Yep.
as we investigate this good deed to determine whether it was indeed a good deed or not. And remember, the position of the police sometimes, I actually can understand it.
From that basic point, you can actually.
I can understand.
You're supposed to take action. You're a police
Yes.
officer. This has happened. Something could be afoot here. You need to investigate. So you take action.
Yes.
But taking action does not necessarily mean that, hold somebody, put them in cell.
No, it doesn't. It could be go home, but be
Record a
reporting, but
statement.
record a statement, but keep reporting here.
Where do you live?
Live, yes.
Let's go. Let's see your home. All right. So this is where you live. This is where you're going to
Fine.
be. Sawa. Local chief.
You're going to be reporting to this office
Yeah.
yes.
It's just that you only have a hammer. So every problem is a nail.
Or is it that
So
every
it's another
day-
case of, taking an action and then asking questions later.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Okay. So the story of the young doctor, Dr.
Yeah.
Mugusu, that we were talking about, is the headline in the Nation today and the Standard today. So the Nation, young doctor who gave us his life. Like thousands of health workers on the front line, Dr. Mugusu continued to serve patients under the most horrible conditions. So today, the Nation actually now tells the story of Dr. Mugusu from the side of his family. They went and interviewed Mr. Naftali Mugusu, his father, and Miss Agnes Mora, the mother, and they now tell us the life story of Mugusu. Mugusu is a guy, fourth born in a family of 5. Humble beginnings, humble background, had gotten this job, was posted by the Ministry of Health to the isolation center in Machakos. He was working there. He had not received pay. When he fell ill, he had requested to be, he basically, when he fell ill, he first of all went to this particular hospital. It's called what?
It was the
Komarok Modern Hospital, where
Yes.
he spent time in the high dependency unit. When his condition worsened, he was taken to KU. 1 week after he got coronavirus, he requested to be discharged and he continued with home-based care. He took drugs. His condition deteriorated. An ambulance returned him to hospital. He requested a certain injection which he believed would save him. That required 22,000 shillings, a dose for 5 days. So friends and relatives contributed money and got the 22K, and he got this injection. But after he received the 5-day injections, we were told that he needed more for 4 more days. We asked for more contributions from friends and relatives. He later requested to be taken to KU, which he believed offered better health services. There, they were told, give us 200,000 shillings, deposit before admission. Okay, this is at KU referral. They looked for money. We were not able to get the amount at that point. But later, we were asked to take him there after DP Ruto, in one of his talks, mentioned him. So at one point, Ruto mentioned, but there's a doctor, pressure. Wait, leteni. Initially, they had said 200,000 shillings.
Or nothing.
Usipite yo mlango. Now, here he is. So, he was taken out to hospital, and that's where he was until his death. Talking about the guy who had fought many battles in his life. He had... At some point in his life, in Standard 7, he had suffered meningitis. Later in his life, at standard 2, he had suffered kidney failure and he had recovered after going a series of treatments. So standard 2, kidney failure. Standard 7, meningitis. All these things. This kid went to primary school, and let me just read that part where his father is talking about his story and how he went to primary school. He schooled at Getembe Primary School up to standard 6. Because of his good performance, Genesis Academy took him and he started the KCPE in 2002. He scored 407 marks out of 500. Okay, joined Lenana School. He scored an A. From Lenana, he joined the University of Nairobi School of Medicine, graduated on the same day that the DP was getting his PhD in 2018. His parents recalled that when he was called to join Lenana, they had only 5,000 shillings, but the school administration allowed them to join. They depended on support from well-wishers to pay school fees. Currently, they have arrears of 200,000 shillings in various schools where the 6 children schooled. This is one man who had said, you know what, my parents, let me just become a doctor. I will earn money. I will build you guys a house. He didn't. But they say he had bought them a cupboard, which they used to store utensils. This is the story of Dr. Mugusu. Okay? Somebody like CT, you said, somebody whom we have trained. And just like we were told yesterday by, what's the name of our caller who called in? Was telling us how much money is spent to train one doctor. And this is subsidized by the government. So the government is actually spending money to train a doctor. And then we've lost him. Hii ndio Kenya ambayo tunaishi mabibi na mabwana.
You know, lest we focus on doctors and have people assuming that doctors are the only healthcare workers. There are the healthcare workers who face the same danger and who are in harm's way in exactly the same way. Some perhaps even more so than the medical doctors, because they come in touch, they get in touch with the patients first. They actually handle and manage patients more than a medical doctor would. So the likelihood of them actually getting infected is that much higher. Yes.
Let's take a break at this point. 28:27. Take a look at the traffic, and then we look at other headlines. Good morning.
Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources, yet we have real challenges in this country?
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice FM, Malindi.
Okay, so let's look at what it looks like on the roads this morning. We had some rain earlier, so that means that some places were moving a little bit slower than others, but it's not too bad this morning, not at this point. It's already building up on Thika Road this morning as you try to get to the Pangani underpass, and remembering the terrible accident that then took place yesterday on the Kisi-Oyugis Kisumu Road yesterday, and that unfortunately killed 5 people and injured scores. So guys, it's raining and in many parts of the country, and there's sometimes flooding we can't see the end of. So as you approach such, please be extremely careful. Mombasa Road, Syokimau, yesterday was also a mess, but this morning it's moving not too badly. Between the SGR and then Cabanas, it's building up already. So if you head in that direction, that is what you will see. So it's just getting started this morning, and we see traffic has already started to build up. We'll give you details of that as we go along. If you have details that we need to know about, also let us know. If you're stuck somewhere or if you find a good route, you know what to do. Spice FMKE on Twitter or text on 40127.
spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right, morning. Say hello to us. Let's say hello to them.
Okay, Brian Kayunda is tuned in from Mombasa and listening. Pauline Gundo also tuned in and is listening from Syokimau. Slims Koinange, I like that. Good morning, intellectual guys. Tuned in from Mombasa. Keep up the good work. Asante Sana. Harold Ayodo is tuned in this morning and is saying, you know what? The death of Dr. Mugusu depicts the rot in our society. How do you explain a bright child who aspired to be a doctor? That in Kenya, doctors have no medical insurance, can't afford the professional services they offer, are begging for PPEs rotting in KEMSA warehouses, and must go on strike to be heard after working for months without neither pay or allowances. Very sad, Harold says.
Indeed. Very, very, very sad and annoying.
Isaiah Omboro is tuned in from the CBD of Mombasa, as is Onesimus tuned in from Homa Bay. Eric Washira left 20 minutes ago from Kawasukari from Kawasukari to town and took 20 minutes to get into the CBD. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. So, let's look at the headlines.
Okay. So, Raila faces backlash on plight of doctors. Uhuru keeps mum. This is the story just, going ahead to furthering on what you had highlighted earlier, Eric. ODM leader Raila Odinga was last evening braving a backlash for calling out doctors over their plan to go on strike. Separately, Deputy President William Ruto lashed onto the bandwagon to dismiss Raila's remarks as reckless. By last evening, Raila's appeal to medics to consider other Kenyans before downing their tools had snowballed into the politics of BBI, eating into its credibility. Raila's bashing on social media went on even as President Uhuru Kenyatta kept mum over the healthcare workers' grievances. He has in the last 2 days engaged in public events, fielding questions from young people and opening conferences without uttering a word on the plight of health workers. Clinical officers and nurses are already on a nationwide strike, and doctors called off theirs until the 21st of December to allow for dialogue. Some Kenyans on social media accused Raila of prioritizing the proposed constitutional changes at the expense of health workers and other Kenyans dying from COVID. So that's what we are looking at there.
Okay.
If I can talk about what Uhuru is talking about, just for a few minutes, right? Uhuru's grand plan for the reopening of schools. Education is the biggest beneficiary in the 2-year stimulus plan. It's a plan right now. In terms of where the money is going to come from, we don't quite know, all right? But it's a plan. On paper, the money is there. In what will come as good news to parents, the government plans to supply face masks, soap, and sanitizers to learners at a cost of 2.1 billion shillings when schools reopen next month. Okay? So we're going to spend 2.1 billion shillings, face masks, soap, sanitizers, and what again? Yo.
Okay, is this? Are we going to do this after we've completed the stadiums?
I don't know if now these face masks will come before schools open, or as you go to school on the 4th of January, you'll be given one by one. I don't know.
Okay,
but
so,
on paper, it's a grand plan.
Right? No, fine. I've got that. So,
Can I continue so that I can make you see what else is in this basket? The government has also committed to spend 28.8 billion shillings to construct additional classrooms before the 4th of January.
Okay, so are they going to do? Are they going to do this?
Well, I'm not finished reading the story now.
Are they going to do this after they've paid the people who made the desks, or are they also going to order new desks to fit into the new classrooms?
After they pay the doctors that they employed 5 months ago, 6 months ago.
Or are they also going to now get insurance first before all these things happen? When? Okay, just carry on.
So they also will construct additional classrooms and repair. Okay, you're right. And repair existing ones to expand the learning space in the next 2 years.
Okay, that's good.
Okay. 10 billion. This is another 10 billion. We have money, almost not a small story. 10 billion will be used to hire additional primary and secondary school teachers in the next 2 years.
Right.
The school feeding program will also be expanded to the tune of 5.6 billion. These are big numbers. These are not small boy numbers we're talking about.
Right.
To cover more institutions and boards of management asked to implement comprehensive health policies for schools.
Okay.
This is part of the grand plans the government has lined up for implementation when learning resumes on the 4th of January.
This is very good. So are they going to do this alongside the digitalization of learning in the university and ensuring that you have radio classes in all the schools that we have in this country? And what about the schools that were submerged, the flooding, and some of the schools that were in areas that had actually been damaged by landslides. Oh, before I forget, are they also going to do this alongside ensuring that hospitals actually do have the wherewithal to treat people, just basic things like medicines? So is this going to happen alongside this as well, or is this just a standalone project that the government has yet begun?
C'est une bonne question, man.
The government does many things at the same time.
This is all considered or contained in the 920. It's like when
Remember that figure we're talking about?
It's like when you
stimulus,
just call any
whatever.
number, it sounds nice, eh? 929.5 billion shillings National Treasury and Planning Post-COVID-19 Economic Recovery Strategy 2020-2022.
These are 2 years
1
of a
trillion
trillion shillings that
Yes.
they're going to spend. So this is how it's going. So it's about schools and maneno like that. But the immediate things would be things like face masks. I would
Those
imagine,
ones need
right?
to be provided when schools are opening on January 4th. As you report to school, you get your masks, your sanitizers, your soaps, right?
Soap, sanitizer, mask.
Yes.
Namaji.
Now, hold on.
I'm
It is the
Mate.
amount that is needed. Please, I think we need to be very clear here. They have planned that this is what is going to happen. Now, in terms of this actually happening come the 4th, because we're not talking about a year away. It's 3 weeks from now. No? What's today's date?
It is 21 plus 4 days.
25 days, 3 weeks plus 3 days, no? That's what we're talking about. The 2.1 billion shillings is needed for masks, sanitizers, soaps alone.
So this is a new figure. The old figure that they had mentioned before, when we had been told that we can produce enough masks for the students.
That issue was
it was
shelved.
it was 11.2 billion
It was added
shillings.
into this one.
It was 11.2 billion shillings that was said to have been released
Okay.
when schools were opening at that
All right.
time on
Now,
the 12th of
The
October.
Harambee Committee had also set some money aside for masks. How did that one go?
I don't know if it was for schools.
Those ones were given out to
it was other people,
hospitals, to
not schools.
Okay. Okay. All right.
But it would be nice to know if the desk
So,
people have been paid.
So we know what.
So do I understand that this is one of the things that the BBI will do, or the BBI is a separate issue from this, what you're reading
No,
here?
BBI is a separate issue.
Are you sure?
BBI is a big thing, man.
This one is not big.
This
Kahin
is
Dimulu,
a small matter.
Ndimuli, who is the chairman of the Kenya Secondary Schools Heads Association, says, and I quote, "We will need proper and prompt we will need proper and prompt funding to sustain the smooth running of schools and also observe COVID-19 protocols. If we don't have prompt and proper funding, all of these things cannot happen."
See, we just move on.
Okay, let's...
Yeah?
it's okay.
Sonko is facing his accusers today in the Senate. So, well, but basically the Senate is going to be the impeachment of Governor Mike Sonko will be considered by an 11-member special committee of the Senate. Yesterday, the Senate Business Committee, which schedules House business, opted for that route, but the decision is subject to approval by the plenary when it convenes for a special sitting today. So today, you see that drama that happens when the Business Committee sits and decides, let's go committee way. And then they tell the majority leader, you come up with some names, we see how we shall consider. Then the other senators sitting in the House, they are thinking, do I want to be participating? They're like, no. This shall be a committee of the whole House. Or, okay, you can have that committee sitting. So this is when it's going to happen. Are they going to form an 11-member committee, or is it going to be a committee of the whole House? And then when they start those meetings, are they going to give the matter due attention?
Eric, can I ask this question, which is actually bubbling?
Ask.
Is Governor Mike Mbuvi's goose cooked?
The goose.
His
It has
goose.
been defeathered. The water is boiling.
You're now waiting for the outcome.
Just waiting for.
Maybe this water is boiling, maybe it's for tea.
Could be for tea. And the goose could actually now just.
Or is it just one of these situations where things have been brought into being so that you can toe the line? I often wonder, these people who go about insulting the president, and when I say insulting, I mean they insult the president. For real. You wonder, are you okay in the head?
That's the question.
You know, it's like you have this chummy president, that's President Uhuru, who's very friendly. So maybe he's your boy, but you know, he's the president of Kenya.
Right.
Maybe he's your guy,
mean
but
position.
he's the president.
You and him are boys.
Yes, even if you're boys. It doesn't mean that you take the camaraderie that you have in private and take it to the public where you just speak about him carelessly. If I may use a Kenyan terminology, you just thank you very much. You see, you've understood. You speak about him anyhowly. Yes. So, I often marvel what goes through the minds of these people. And then the hue and cry that follows. We have the deputy president and his cohort of followers who used to say, you wonder, why are these people saying these things? Think it by all means, but must you speak this way about the president in public? Then comes Sonko, he takes it just a notch higher. Even with this new constitution, the presidency has power. It has serious power.
It's not for jokes.
No, it's not for jokes. And that power is exercised ever so slightly. The howling that appears, you even wonder, goodness gracious me. And yet somebody was asking for it. Sonko asked for it.
What did you expect?
And now he is getting it.
What did you expect to happen?
It's being served.
Yes,
hot.
it's being served. Yes. It's being served hot.
With pepper.
With pepper. And boiling water. In boiling water.
In boiling water.
Okay.
14 to 7. Another time for another short break, and then we'll look at other headlines. Good morning.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
The Spice Drive with Monique, the official soundtrack of getting you where you need to be. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
13 to 7. CT, headline you looking at?
The headline.
Wait, what's that headline on the Star?
BBI, ODM pushes for fresh amendments.
It's okay. Sorry.
This is Kenya. This is Kenya.
This is Kenya.
Yes, this is Kenya.
Okay.
All right, let me read it since it has caught your attention.
Yeah.
Uhuru Ruto allies also discussing changes that are likely to be announced this Friday. In case you are thinking that the issue of amendments are over, think again.
And here you were saying the train has gone, it can't be stopped.
No, the train can't be stopped.
But you can be throwing things. You can throw luggage into the train as it's moving. You throw it down, and then somebody who is standing at the way says, wait, throw it in the window.
What we don't know is
slow down for you to board.
It can, but we also don't know how long that train will actually stay, wherever it is. Remember, we said you may have thought it was a passenger train, and yet it's a cargo train. So now, if it's a cargo train, then the passenger train now is about to leave to join it, okay? A standoff has divided the BBI Secretariat over fresh push by ODM to reopen the document for amendments in an acid test of the handshake. At the center of the deadlock is the demand by ODM Raila Odinga's team to review distribution of the 70 new constituencies and appointment of the IIBC commissioners. If you thought the drama had ended, it has begun. The ODM side is also demanding the proposed Health Service Commission should be entrenched in the Constitution and the Independent Policing Oversight Authority elevated to a commission. Hooray!
So those things that were there in the first draft, then they were removed from the second draft, now they are coming back.
They are fast and furious. Now, do you see this game, all right? We are not amending. Can't be amended.
Can never
it's
be
gone.
Amended. It's done.
Forget
it's
it.
Suddenly.
All right. So, some people bring in the amendments. So now the new competition is who is bringing which amendment.
Suddenly.
Yes. So you thought you
brought. Life
it.
has new meaning.
I cannot. Me, I can't.
You can't. Eh?
You just can't.
I am unable to can. What do you mean? So, in fact, it's even splitting the secretariat that has gone around collecting signatures. After people have signed
those signatures that you
those
collected.
signatures, after the bill has been published. The bill has been published. All right? And there was a delay in publishing that bill. It has been published already. It's gazetted. It's out. Now we're talking about
amendments can still be brought.
Actually, if one talks about America as being a land of opportunity, as we're a land of possibilities.
Anything can happen.
Here.
Just think it.
Never said
Here.
There's a famous slogan for a TV show. If you can think it, you can do it. Just imagine. Anything you can imagine can happen.
All right. Just so that we understand, because at the heart of it, there'll be the discussion, and we, the media, will bring it up and make it a center stage discussion. Raila, Odinga, President Uhuru on the periphery, and William Ruto. But these are the previous reform proposals that have been attributed to Raila Odinga. Parliamentary system of government with the PM as head of government, creation of a 3-tier system of government, increase allocation of the national cake of counties up to 45%, creation of a ward fund, allowing political parties to nominate IEBC commissioners, overhauling the current electoral commission. By the way, this is not new, just the things that are attributed to him over time. Creation of the office of official opposition, whose leader sits in the National Assembly. Good one. Strengthening regional economic blocks. Right.
It's our too.
Okay. So in Taita Taveta a few weeks ago, right? There was a video that came out about police who were harassing students in a college, right? So security agents and political leaders in Taita Taveta County have held a meeting in a bid to end tension and unrest that led to the closure of the Coast Institute of Technology last week. Voi MP Jonas Mlolwa met security officers and student leaders on Monday. The college was shut after students took to the streets protesting against the administration. The lawmaker urged the students to maintain order as local leaders and other stakeholders attempt to address their grievances. They had protested a poor learning environment and lack of basic teaching resources. What was a peaceful demonstration turned ugly as hundreds of students battled police officers on Sophia Estate Road. The institution board held a meeting Monday and resolved to send the students home, and it will remain closed until next month. So they are demanding, leaders now are demanding action after police had beaten students, and we saw some of those terrible pictures whereby some were beaten while being forced to crawl on their knees and such. So IPOA has taken up the matter, and they've said that they want to find out exactly what happened and hope that those who were involved will be brought to book. Taita Taveta woman representative Lydia Haika condemned the beatings and called for action to be taken against the officers captured on the video beating up students. Our children suffered at the hands of police officers during a peaceful demonstration. It is unacceptable. And she also urged women leaders to condemn the beatings and demand justice. We cannot remain silent when our daughters are subjected to inhumane treatment by people who are employed to enforce the law.
Okay. That's a big one. That's a good one.
Cold storage. Cold storage. Limits Kenya's options as UK rolls out COVID-19 jab. Remember, when we're talking about the vaccines that, at the time when we're talking about, had reached the stage where they were actually seeking permission from the authorities and regulators to be able to use it for emergency care and emergency uses. Remember? And we're talking about the complexity of some of these particular vaccines. The AstraZeneca vaccine, if you recall, had one key component that made it user-friendly for people like us. It could be stored in a normal fridge.
Yes.
No -10, no -50, none of these climatic conditions that you only find in Antarctica, none of those things. So as people talk about vaccines, my mind also goes back to the conversation we had with the ambassador. The
EU ambassador?
Yes, yes. When we posed a question to him and asked, are we to take it therefore that with the aid that the EU is giving us, that when Europe gets the vaccine, we at the same time will also get it? And he said unequivocally, yes. So it appears that given these conditions, we are likely to get this. But again, it's one of those situations that I would argue, let's wait and
see.
Yes. Tungoje tuone.
Yes.
Meanwhile, as we are talking about that, there's a country that has decided we are going to start rolling out vaccination in our country. And this is an African country. And they are going the China route. This is Morocco. Morocco ready to immunize its citizens with the Chinese vaccine. The operation that starts this month aims to vaccinate 80% of all Moroccans. The first injections could come within days, according to a health ministry official. Facing a public that's skeptical about the vaccine's safety and effectiveness, medical experts and health officials have appeared on television in recent weeks to promote the COVID-19 vaccines and encourage Moroccans to get immunized. Right? So Morocco has already decided we are rolling out as earlier this month we are going the Chinese vaccine route. 2020. There's also another story that I've seen with about especially the countries like America and the UK, where there's a significant black population that has felt discriminated over the years. And when they see this vaccination, there are those in the communities who are feeling, we don't trust this thing. We have seen what has happened before with vaccinations by government on issues. And now they're coming here and they're telling us they're vaccinating us. How do we trust this? So, and even as you can see with Morocco, Moroccans are feeling, do we trust this thing? So governments really have a lot of work to do, even though we have a breakthrough in vaccination, in getting the population convinced
that it's the way to go.
That it's safe for them. There's a business story that I wanted to share with you, and this is good news for SMEs, because the Treasury Cabinet Secretary, Ukur Yatani, has unveiled the state-backed credit guarantee scheme to help small traders recover from COVID-19 pandemic at 5 million shillings. That's how much they can borrow. 7 banks have signed up for the first phase of the scheme unveiled by the Treasury to help cushion micro, small and medium-sized enterprises to get capital to sustain operations. KCB, NCBA, Cooperative Bank, ABSA, DTB, Stanbic and Credit Bank will independently scrutinize the ability of the small businesses to repay the loan and determine applicable interest rates based on risk default. So what the government is basically doing, that in the event of a default by any SME that has borrowed from any of these banks, the Treasury will cover up to 25% of the loan, and the lenders shouldering the remainder of the loss under the third-party credit risk mitigation scheme, which was initially allocated 3 billion shillings by lawmakers in June. The cabinet in September approved 10 billion shillings from that 3 billion as the total cover for the commercial loans taken by the MSMEs under the scheme for this financial year. So SMEs can go to any of these banks, apply for a loan. Then the bank, of course, is going to look at the small businesses' viability to get the loan. And in the event of a default, then government has guaranteed 25%. Then you...
Is this an insurance scheme that they're talking about?
It's a guarantee.
Guarantee is iffy.
Is a guarantee.
How do you effect the guarantee? How do you ensure that should this happen? I'm sure they've laid out a plan as to how you can benefit from this and how you can seek assistance. But an insurance would have been easier and more straightforward.
It's sort of the same, because if you think that the government basically is telling the banks, lend to the SMEs. If they default, 25% will come from us.
Yeah.
25% of the amount of money that you're trying to recover is basically going to come from this particular kitty from the government.
It's still tricky.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
What are you thinking?
Small businesses that are registered in 4 weeks and get 1 billion shillings from
contract
will emerge the same way. And they will not
What
pay.
amount of money qualifies, well, what amount of money generated by an organization or a company or an enterprise qualifies it for being an SME as opposed to being a huge commercial enterprise?
You know, actually, we are starting from micro, small, and medium. So as long as the business that is registered, and here they're saying that you must have like a Kanjo license just to show that you're trading, and you've, of course, been banking, the bank will go through its own process of determining whether you qualify for a loan. So you qualify for a loan, you get it. You get it, you start repaying. If you default, bank immediately goes to the Treasury, bring. Bank gets 25%.
And they're okay with that as,
and then the other,
compared to a loss.
Yeah. Okay. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Keep it right here. In the next 2 hours, we talk corruption. Good morning.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
All right, Wednesday morning, and it looks like traffic is already building up. Let's look at Thika Road, where an accident at the Allsops Sage service lane headed towards town. Two vehicles have rammed into one another, so the service lane is out of use for now because they're waiting to clear that one up. So if you're trying to get on that particular service lane off Thika Road right at Allsops, don't, because you can't use it now because of the accident that took place a few minutes ago. It's still building up on Mombasa Road all the way from the SGR then towards General Motors. That's very slow this morning. After General Motors, however, until Bellevue, you'll be all right. But we still have a little bit of that flooding around there. The construction doesn't help matters either. But as you approach these pools of water, please be careful because we don't know how deep they actually are. Let's take a look at Ngong Road. You're all right until you get to the City Mortuary roundabout. And then you can choose to go towards Valley Road or continue down Ngong Road without too much of an issue. But Gadi Way, however, is piling up because now we've reduced a couple of lanes there. So we need to take into consideration that it's going to go slower. Uhuru Highway, then from the Nyeri Stadium roundabout all the way towards Westlands, moving very slowly this morning. It's going to be a slow morning from all indications, but we'll take a look at how that pans out shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room. Broadcasting on Spice FM 94.4 in Nairobi, Mombasa 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, Malindi 97.7, Nyeri 90.9, 96.7 in Eldoret and 96.0 in Nakuru. We're live on KTN Home for the next 2 hours. A very good morning to you, our audience on KTN Home. And we also live stream the show every weekday morning on Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Speaking of Twitter, very many people have written to us telling us where they're locked in from. There's Gabriel. Where is Gabriel?
Kirapa Gabriel Cyrus is tuned in from Angurai, Teso North Logiri Clan, Omei Village, Kakuriki. I don't even know how to say it. Kakurikit. And it is a pleasure indeed. Did you know that there was a place like that?
I now know.
Now you know.
Now I do.
Angurai, Teso North.
Logiri Clan, Omei Village, Kakurikit.
Sawa basi.
Meaning, you've been given direction to the doorstep.
There you go.
Cyrus Gabriel Ekirapa, karibu sana to the show. C.T. Muga, as we begin the hour. What is today's proverb?
There are no shortcuts to the top of a palm tree.
There are no shortcuts to the top of a palm tree.
The thing you'll notice about palm trees, they don't really have branches.
They don't.
Not really.
And the palm wine tappers who actually go to the top of the tree, there are very few of them, but they're skilled in what they do. And the way for them to get to the top of the tree is actually half the work. To tap the wine is a little part of the job. But getting up the tree,
it's a feat.
It's the feat.
And there's no shortcut.
No.
You can't parachute onto the tree.
No, there isn't.
No.
And this isn't one of those trees that you're going to climb from the top.
You can't
Doesn't
slingshot yourself onto the top of the tree.
that's something you could try if you're suicidal, yes.
No shortcuts to the top of a palm tree.
None.
Today is International Anti-Corruption Day. What does that mean, Ndu? It's a day to celebrate what?
Are we celebrating?
Yeah, we can't be mourning. I mean,
Actually, yes, we can.
Yes, you can be mourning.
Yeah, but we can also be celebrating.
You can,
If it's an anti-corruption day, yes, you can be celebrating it.
to remember the fight, to be a little bit more spirited in the fight, is maybe something that you could be remembering, to say that, there's certain gains that have been made, or reminding countries around the world that there's certain things that they should continue doing to make sure that they keep up the fight to eradicate corruption. It could be also celebrating the wins that have been made over time, whereby 10 years ago, for example, you weren't really fighting it. Today, fighting it a lot better, coming up with solutions that previously you didn't have. So it looks like it's a commemoration, it's a remembrance, it's a reminder of things that should be done for the fight against corruption.
I would take the discussion even further. That you even have a day, and it's called an international day, means that you have come to understand corruption as being a fundamental issue that affects the lives of people adversely. Such that it's not something that you're just going to sort of like sneeze by or
glaze over.
No. You have to have a specific day when you think about it, and all the issues that you've raised, yes, come into being. In essence, give the discussion around it life. And let it not be something that just happens briefly and then is quickly forgotten. No.
So it's mainstreaming the issue of corruption.
Renewing the commitment.
I will say no more on the subject because my dear friend Eric here has hit the proverbial nail on the head.
Okay.
Mainstreaming it.
Hope then head bleeds. Let's talk to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Speaking to the head of corporate communications, Philip Kagushia, our good friend, and he's on the line. Good morning, Philip.
Good morning, Eric.
Welcome to the Situation Room, Philip.
Thank you for having me back. Good morning to Ndu and City as well.
Philip, good morning.
Good morning, Philip.
Yeah.
So let's start from here. What are we celebrating this day? Are we marking this day? Are we mourning anti-corruption?
Well, I would say probably the first day. We are celebrating the day. We are marking it. We are commemorating it. I think this is one of those things where you pause for a minute, you take stock, because the Republic of Kenya is a signatory to the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. And that international treaty which we signed is part of Kenyan law, because if you look at our constitution says under Article 26 that whatever treaty Kenya signs is now part of Kenyan law. So this is part of what we will be doing going forward. It's exactly what you mentioned, Latif. You said it's mainstreaming. This is part of our culture now. Now, the institution that is given the responsibility to commemorate this day is EACC. And that is why we're coming together today, the 9th of December, and we've been doing this the 9th of December every year to commemorate the International Anti-Corruption Day. If I may just mention, Latif, we are doing this across the country, but this year in particular, we are holding this event in 3 counties. We are in Nandi, we are in Nyamira County, but the main event is in Kiambu County.
Why those 3?
Since we started celebrating or commemorating the International Anti-Corruption Day, we have been going across the country, and out of 47 counties, we have already hit 35. So it's a process of mapping the country and trying to reach the people who we haven't reached before.
And what are you trying to reach them with, Philip? When you say reach them, is it some kind of information you're trying to spread, continuing the fight? What is it we're reaching people with?
Absolutely. Even just this phenomenon of corruption, there are people who have not internalized it. When I think about corruption, I remember how we dealt with HIV/AIDS maybe 30 years ago. It took us a long time to actually internalize it. And if you go back in history and research, the very first instances of HIV/AIDS, that disease was attributed to all manner of things except human behavior. So it took a lot of time, a lot of effort for people to internalize, and that is what we're trying to do. We're trying to reach as many people as possible, make them aware of this phenomenon of corruption and how it is affecting their lives, and maybe persuade them to join us in the war against graft. I may just mention that the theme for this year is to recover with integrity, because as you all know, we have been ravaged by this COVID-19 pandemic, and corruption is insidious. It exploits a crisis like what we are going through, and the theme that came to us from the United Nations is recover with integrity.
When you think about corruption in this country, like we are saying, it's become such a normal thing that every new day we'll talk about corruption in one way or the other. There are things that the Anti-Corruption Commission will go out, like today there's a story that's out in the paper about a former senior police officer who's been penalized for participating in corruption. And then we have other corruption cases that are still ongoing. For example, you guys, I assume you're still investigating KEMSA. You still have others that you've been investigating. There's the medical supplies scheme, which the Senate has they didn't approve, but it's a matter that is under investigation. So many things that are happening in corruption. So many years since the first Anti-Corruption Commission was formed and Harold Moore was given the mandate to spearhead the fight, up to now, we are still seeing incidences of corruption. Shall we ever win this fight?
That's a very accurate observation, and maybe I can break it down this way. The people who are committing these acts of corruption, they're not aliens. They're not coming from Mars. They're people like you and I. And corruption as a phenomenon is so complex, it permeates every fabric of society. And how you fight it is multi-pronged. We have, for example, EACC has a mandate to combat corruption through law enforcement. That is just one aspect of it. We have another aspect, which is prevention. We have another one, which is education, training, and public awareness. We have another one, which is promoting standards. We want people to conduct themselves ethically. When you put all these things together, drop by drop, you start improving. And I like the fact that you remember EACC in its previous incarnations, when it was the Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission, it was Kenya Anti-Corruption Authority. At one point, it was even an anti-corruption police unit. Between those years, let's say 97 to 2020, let's say the last 20 or so years, what EACC was doing then is not what we are doing today. And that is why even if we don't speak Latif for 1 week, by the time I get back to you, I have new things. I have new things I can report, including the matter that you just mentioned, where the police officer was not just fined, he has actually been imprisoned for 1 year. This is for taking a bribe of 50,000.
Okay. Philip, I want to go back to how you're going around the country, because there's the talking to Kenyans about corruption, and like you said, hoping that they join the EACC in this fight against corruption. I've always been a proponent of letting people know what a Kenya without corruption would look like. Is this incorporated in your message as you go around and speak? Like, if we don't have corruption, this is what would happen. If we don't have the thievery of public funds, this is what would happen. Because I tend to think that if you paint a picture for people of what their Kenya could look like, then they're able to understand then what corruption actually takes away from them, and then would be able to demand that such a thing is eradicated. Is this involved, or do you involve this approach in the work that you do?
As I mentioned earlier, we have one of our responsibilities is to fight corruption, through prevention, and part of prevention is educating, training, and public awareness. And if you ever have the opportunity to sit through with our education officers and you listen to how they talk to the people on the ground, they start with what is corruption. Because, sometimes something happens to you, you have a land dispute and a boundary dispute, and because it is offending you or upsetting you, you still feel it's corruption. We have to distinguish those kind of things with corruption per se. Then after what is corruption, what are the effects of corruption? Then after what are the effects of corruption, who do you turn to? And we tell people you turn to EACC, and this is how you can report. Now, what you're proposing is the aspirational version, where you say, without corruption, this is what you do. But before you even get there, you have to show people this is what corruption is doing to you right now. Okay? If you can't get, if you can't travel properly because the roads are terrible, this is what corruption is doing to you. If you can't get medicine at your hospital, in the county, on the ground, this is what corruption is doing to you. So we have incorporated those things. The only difference is what you're proposing is aspirational, but we have to start with what people are recognizing immediately.
There's something that I have been thinking of even as you were speaking. The analogy you gave about HIV. The one aspect of HIV that made it difficult to deal with was the stigma. And if I look at corruption in this country, corruption has been destigmatized. Yes,
that will not come out positively, right?
It's
that's
not meant.
That's not how it's meant to come out. Right?
Yes, but I don't mean it to come out positively. I mean it as I'm saying it, because if people consider corruption to be something normal, something even to be proud of, all you do is you create a new palatable name for it. You call it struggling, you call it hustling, you call it kutafuta. You find some name for it, but essentially what you're doing is illegal, what you're doing is wrong. And so it is a normal part of our fabric. So that even the analogy of tea is overtaken. So that children are born and they grow up in an atmosphere where they believe it is actually normal to solve your problems by issuing a bribe. That's why I call it, we've destigmatized it. It is not, this wasn't always the case. Now, moving from this particular point to the point where people can actually understand that at the very heart of literally every problem we have in this country, economic and otherwise, there lies corruption. Does your training, sensitization, education have a component that seeks to move people's mind from where we are currently to a point where we actually are stigmatized by the very aspect of corruption? Because right now we are not.
City, I really would like to appreciate that observation, because in essence, that is one of the biggest challenges in fighting corruption. Because as much as we complain about corruption and we want to point out that there's a traffic officer who's taking money, there's a kanjo guy who is harassing me in my kibanda, the truth is, internally, ourselves as individuals, we haven't rejected corruption. And I don't know if you're a religious person, City. You know, there are those prayers where they say, do you
Yes, I'm a religious person. Don't add very to it. Just leave it at religious.
Yes, it is. So, I mean, if you're asked in church, do you reject Satan and all his, ills, and you say, I do, that is where we should be with corruption. But I think we pay a lot of lip service. We haven't really rejected corruption. And the best example I can give you is look at who our heroes are. Who are our role models? Which are these people we are celebrating? Is it the guy who, has 10 gold rings, 10 chains, he's walking around with a posse, he's showing you photos of his house, there's bottles of gold label whiskey, and those are our heroes. And, when you have the responsibility of fighting corruption, changing the hearts and minds of Kenyans is more difficult than all these other things we're doing. All these other technical solutions we can do, but changing the hearts and minds of Kenyans is difficult. And one of the things that perhaps going forward we can do is to change the narrative. Changing the narrative involves maybe looking for different heroes, looking for other people, celebrating people who do good things. Instead of all the time focusing on this person has done something wrong and has been put in jail, why can't we talk about somebody who's done something right and he has been recognized for it and he's been rewarded for it? Now, with regard to this International Anti-Corruption Day, these are some of the messages that we are filtering to the people, because we need the people on our side. It doesn't help when EACC has the responsibility to fight corruption and every message that comes out is a negative one. Even the people don't believe that we're making any headway. And that's why we appreciate you guys in the media, because you give us a platform to talk to Kenyans and explain to them what we are trying to achieve.
Is there anyone who you're going to those three counties and elevating and saying, let's celebrate so-and-so, this is a hard-working person and this is what they've achieved?
We don't have a mechanism for identifying individual persons as yet, but now, Latif, in my capacity, this is the sort of responsibility you Kenyans can give me and tell me, go back to EACC, talk to the CEO, Major Twali Mbarak, tell him that it is important for you to set up something like this. And we can do it. But just to mention, for example, where we are holding the main event in Kiambu County, one of the things we have noticed is we did a corruption risk assessment for them, I think towards the end of 2018. And it's impressive to go and find out that they are implementing what we recommended to them. Although they took a bit of time, they were a bit late. But if you contrast what Kiambu County is doing with what NYS did, you won't believe it, Latif, that between NYS 1 and NYS 2, EACC had actually gone and identified corruption loopholes in the institution. Yet what happened? They stole even more money the second time around.
Philip, one thing has always been communicating the gains in the fight against corruption. And I think we also spoke with the CEO at some point, and he said, yeah, that seems to be one hurdle that we have as the EACC in terms of telling Kenyans really how far we have gone with this fight. Is it something that you can improve on? I mean, it seems like you don't want to go tooting your horn, everything that you do. But for something like this that has eaten really into the fabric of society, it is important then to talk about the gains that you have made. That's one. And you can maybe expound on that. But then also the larger, broader question would be, are we winning the fight against corruption?
Ndu, your observation is accurate in terms of we need to be talking to the people about achievements, milestones, and so on and so forth. And you'll agree with me that there's a huge difference. If we just take the last 12 months, if you take 2020 as a calendar year, the frequency of communication from EACC has gone up. And that is because we also have things to report. You know, if you don't have anything to report, you keep quiet.
Right.
If you're recommending prosecution against high-profile people, like, for instance, I think we have 9 governors who are in court. Those are things which we can communicate to the people, and they'll understand. If you've secured a high-profile conviction like the one for the Sirisi MP, again, you have something to talk about. And equally important is what we are doing now with the recoveries. And I don't know if you guys are aware that just yesterday we got a favorable judgment to recover a parcel of land. I don't know if you remember, City, where the old Kenya School of Law used to be on Ralph Bunch Road.
I remember.
Yes, so just across from there was a government house, and the principal of the Kenya School of Law used to reside in that house. But they did some magendo, and the house was transferred to a company. And we fought years and years in court, and we finally got judgment just yesterday. And, imagine that the house had gone and it's valued at 700 million. Yeah, just under 1 acre with an old house. 700 million. That was just
Philip, this one I have to ask. Now, the people who are involved in it, what's going to happen to them? Because this is what we need to see. Are they going to be treated like some of these individuals we've seen where they are arrested, taken to a police cell for 7 weeks as investigations are going on? Or are we going to sort of like ask them to write statements, go back home, sleep in their comfortable beds as investigations go on?
City, what happens is the way EACC works, it's like a toolbox. You know, a mechanic who has a good toolbox has many tools. So you can't change a flat tire with a screwdriver. You need all those other things. Okay?
You could try, but you'd fail.
Yeah, you could. And sometimes when you look at the number of cases, and just bear at the back of your mind that we receive 3,000 reports every year. 3,000 reports, and EACC has barely 200 investigators. Okay? So 3,000 reports. So what you do, if you look at your toolbox and you say, this one, we need to prosecute. And I don't know if you remember when we were talking about some of the reasons we rely on to take up cases. We look at the value of what is involved. Like in this case, it's 700 billion. It's high value. Look at the personalities involved. If it's a governor, a member of parliament, a cabinet secretary, and then the public interest. But there's some technical challenges that you might encounter that will take you one path, which is one tool, as opposed to another. So, for instance, in this case, the path that you took is civil litigation to recover the asset. And it has just as big impact as prosecution, because you know what we've done? We have disincentivized the corrupt. We have taken away the thing that they were not sleeping trying to karabati. You know, they were trying to come up with this scheme. And after more than 10 years, we have taken it away from them. So it's a disincentive. Yes.
Okay, but you haven't said so. Those who are involved walk away.
Oh, sorry, Eric, just to answer your question. The process is parallel. You have a forensic investigation. Forensic means with the intention of prosecuting. That runs concurrently with the civil litigation. The beauty of the civil litigation is the threshold for evidence is on a balance of probabilities. So we have more chances of success when we start with that. The prosecution is beyond reasonable doubt. It's a bit difficult. If you think about a case which started more than 10 years ago, do we still have the witnesses? Do we still have the evidence? All those obstacles that might come up. So it's much harder to go that way.
All right. Philip, thank you very much for joining us this morning, and happy International Anti-Corruption Day to you and your team at the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission.
Thank you, Eric. Perhaps maybe I can leave our listeners with just one message.
Yes.
And this is that this fight against corruption is not just an EACC thing. It's not just a law enforcement agency thing or a government thing. It affects us all in one way or another. So we should be feeling some kind of way about either reporting it or highlighting it. So we have all the platforms. You can report even anonymously. We have our website, www.eacc.go.ke. So please follow us. If you see the portal, if you have a report, you can report it anonymously.
Asante sana. Philip Kagushia is the head of corporate communications at the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Thank you very much, Philip, and have a good day. Time for us to take a break at 26 minutes after 7. Keep it right here, because after this break, we'll be speaking with nominated Senator Sylvia Kasanga. She is the chair of the ad hoc committee on COVID-19 in the Senate. We'll be talking about curbing corruption in the midst of a pandemic. You know, COVID-19 has come. You know the number of corruption cases that have just come surrounding this whole COVID-19 fight. So we'll be speaking to the senator shortly. Keep it right here. We'll be back.
Spice FM.
It's getting hot in here. Oh, everybody steals. It's better a thief who brings something small back. And I say to myself, there's no better thief. A thief is a thief, period.
All those bribes, how much they are getting per year, how much inconvenience they are causing, as much as you call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted.
The truth is, we are a tribal nation. Because if we were not tribal, and I want to go back to this, you cannot continue walking around with a mug which is clean outside and it's rotten inside.
We have become a fuliza country. We have mortgaged our country because of debt.
You've got one chef working, and the assistant chef, wakati anatakana koroge unga nini hayuko.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Mostly cloudy in Nairobi today. We're looking at 17 degrees at the moment, going to highs of 25 today, and the chance of rain later on in the afternoon. It's mostly cloudy in Nakuru at 13. The high will be 26. 23 the high in Nyeri today. It's mostly clear at the moment at 12. That'll be the low for the day as well. 13 will be the low also in Eldoret, where it currently is, and mostly cloudy, going then to highs of 23. It's mostly cloudy in Kisumu at 19 degrees, going to highs of 27 today. The low will be 17. And a chance of rain also about 30%. 20% chance of rain in Kakamega as well. 19 at the moment. Mostly cloudy conditions, going to a warm high of 30 today. Mombasa is looking at a high of 30. It's raining this morning at 25. We're looking at highs of 28 in Malindi. Mostly cloudy conditions and also 30% chance of rain later, currently at 19. It's mostly sunny in Kampala at 20. Highs of 26 and lows of 19. Partly cloudy conditions in Dar es Salaam at 24. Highs of 31 and lows of 24. And in Johannesburg, it's 15 degrees and sunny. Highs of 23 and 26. Raining in Lagos at 32. That will be the high, and lows of 25. And for now, it's still clear in Kinshasa at 22. 32 will be the high and lows of 22.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Traffic.
Okay, what are we looking at today? Still, heightened levels of traffic on Mombasa Road. We're also seeing that the accident that took place on Thika Road is slowing things down quite considerably. So if you're moving in that direction, please take care. The service lane then at Allsops should be avoided because now it is absolutely jam-packed. Getting into the city, however, Forest Road, surprise, surprise, is your friend. Please use this because it will not give you any issues. It might be longer, but you'll get into town without too much of an issue. All right, coming out of Westlands, visibility seems to be poor up ahead on Waiaki Way and then moving out then towards Kangemi. So take care there as well. We don't see too much. Jogo Road looking good, getting into the CBD or towards industrial area. Industrial area, however, on its own, that's another story. So it's going to slow down a little bit for you there also. Talk to us, Spice FMKE on Twitter or text on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Happy International Anti-Corruption Day to everybody who's tuned in this morning. We're looking back and taking stock. That's what we're doing with the conversation with Philip Kagusha from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Taking stock of the fight against corruption. They're celebrating even today as they mark this day, the AACC. They just won some cases yesterday. Recovery of a 700 million shillings piece of land belonging to the Kenya School of Law. Some more recoveries in Mtwapa in Kilifi County. The jailing of a police officer over taking of a bribe of 50,000 shillings. The police officer has been jailed for a year. And more. That is doing some good news, okay? Let's take stock of what has happened in terms of corruption now from the other side. Those who have successfully gone ahead with corruption this particular year. Successfully, participated in corruption this year.
What do you mean, Eric? What do you mean that they've successfully participated?
So we are looking at the success of the EACC in fighting corruption.
Yes.
So now let's look at the success of the corrupt.
In putting their hands in the cookie jar, eating the cookies and wiping their mouths.
Yes. Remember Jack Ma's things came, they went. Remember we have KEMSA. Remember during this whole time that we are fighting COVID-19, there's a lot that has happened. And that is why if you look to the two houses of Parliament, the National Assembly and the Senate, you will find very many sittings right now because they are trying to establish what has happened. For example, several sittings that have happened over KEMSA. The Senate has had sittings over KEMSA. The National Assembly Health Committee has had a sittings over KEMSA and produced a report. Currently, the Public Investments Committee, or is it the Public Accounts Committee of the National Assembly, is conducting sittings and hearings over KEMSA. More and more. The Senate, during this fight against COVID-19, came up with an ad hoc committee where the senators decided, you know what, as a house, let's look at how we get to understand the fight against COVID-19, what is required, then come up with a report that we shall recommend to the government. This is what you need to do so that we can effectively fight COVID-19. That committee was set up, the ad hoc committee. It was formally chaired by the Nairobi senator. What's his name? Johnson Sakaja. Yep. And then you know what Johnson Sakaja did, unfortunately, and he said, okay, because of that, I take responsibility. And now I shall step down as the chair. The chair then was given to Senator Sylvia Kasanga, who is joining us now on the line. And the conversation we want to have with her now is fighting COVID-19 in the midst of a pandemic and the role that Parliament has as the watchdog, as the people who should be keeping the national executive in check. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Latif. How are you this morning?
Very well, thank you.
Happy Anti-Corruption Day to you all there in studio.
Well, thank you very much.
I don't know if we say thank you or...
Actually, I'm still sorting this thing out in my
How
head.
we're celebrating this day.
Yes.
I'm also not sure.
Because the word corruption and celebration in one sentence...
Anti-corruption.
It does sound
if you don't
crazy.
put anti, then it changes the whole the meaning.
Okay, fine. Okay.
So if you say anti, then you can say happy. Happy
Anti-corruption.
anti-corruption.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Senator.
Thank you so much, Nati, for having me.
Asante sana. The Parliament has a big role in the fight against corruption. Parliament is the one, and I'm talking Parliament as a whole, both the Senate and the National Assembly. Parliament is the one that has a lot of oversight, has the oversight role over the executive. Parliament has a budget-making role over the executive. Parliament then also looks at all these state departments and commissions which report to Parliament and give their a report of what they have done and what then they need, the kind of support that they need going forward. Looking at all that and looking at the state of Parliament, can you say that Parliament has played that role effectively so far?
Oh, well, Latif, I think it's a touch and go situation. And I've said severally in many platforms that it is my view that Parliament has not done enough and in effectively failing Kenyans, because we are not doing what we are supposed to be doing fully and, wholeheartedly for that matter. And let me just first correct something you just said. The ad hoc committee wound up its functions, by the way. As ad hoc, we wound up our functions late October, and were given an extension of 1 month to receive reports from the Auditor General that we had requested for in September. In September, we had requested the Auditor General to do an audit on all the counties on their use of the COVID funds that had been sent from the national government, as well as from their supplementary budgets, a report which we are yet to receive, and also just to highlight some of the frustrations that we also encounter in Parliament. But just to answer your question, being the oversight, having the oversight mandate over national government and over counties, whether Parliament is stretched or not, there's still a lot more Parliament needs to do. In fact, it's with a lot of frustration that we find ourselves in the debt level that the country is experiencing right now, which we shall have a lot of impact come later this year and early next year. We shall really feel the pain of the debt level. And part of the reason is because Parliament okayed the executive to go ahead with the spending. And you would have expected a situation where Parliament is robust over this issue and they'll put their foot down and say, no, we have to learn to live within our means. It means the government then has to cut expenditure here and there and to curb corruption, because we know a lot of the money that are borrowed are being eaten, quote unquote, through corrupt means. And this issue of high-level graft, for me, I've grappled with it. I didn't understand it as I was growing up. I didn't understand it through my professional career because, there's corruption of procurement officers, fiddling of civil servants, crooked businessmen, shady bankers, and just thieving politicians. But those happen in any form of modern community. You see that. But the high level graft that we are experiencing in this country is something I've grappled with. And I've been reading a lot of articles, and there's one particular article that caught my eye. And this was the AFRICOG state capture report, and the former Auditor General, Edward Oko. And you can trust and you can feel something that he says, because we know the role he played when he was the chair of that watchdog. And you remember how frustrated he was. And when he was launching this report, it's called the state capture report, he did talk about something called budgeted corruption. Because sometimes you wonder, where is this money going? Where is this money going? And in that report, it says it very clearly, budgeted corruption. Where budget is inflated by monies that are earmarked to be stolen. And then, also characterize the budgeting process as a highway. And the projects are the exit lanes, now where the eating can happen once the projects have been rolled over. So what then can Parliament do in such situations? You realize that then we have to take up the audit of projects a lot more thoroughly, a lot more seriously. So when we meet in our committees, and we are analyzing how projects have been, tendered and how they have, they have been rolled out. And in the end, what is the exit report looking like? Those are now things it looks like Parliament has to sit over extremely thoroughly. But I'll tell you, in my experience now in Parliament, we don't have the complete capacity. I mean, every county is rolling out projects. So imagine now how will 47 senators oversight each and every single project that is happening at county level. National Assembly, on the other hand, is oversighting the executive, each and every project that is going on. How is that even possible? So we rely on the instruments that, the Constitution has set up. And you can see, in fact, I was just listening to the gentleman before, the anti-corruption gentleman, and you can hear there are some areas where there's a bit of frustration. I'll tell you on our part, for instance, under the ad hoc committee, when it became clear that we needed to look into how the use of funds has happened, because, of course, there were already reports and, whistleblowers, when we talk to stakeholders and people in the counties, you can hear, snippets of frustrated Kenyans saying, no, we know the money has not been used appropriately. Or when you hear the forum of the county assemblies forum telling us that they've not had an opportunity to oversight the funds that the counties are utilizing for COVID, then we have a serious problem. And we call on the Auditor General and say, come, you're the person who has these instruments. Can you go and give us these reports in the shortest time possible?
So, Dr. Cassandra, I have to ask you, though. I mean, I can hear that you're saying that there is, in your heart of hearts, you have the desire to fight this corruption, right? But are we seeing a direct calling out of some of the cases where there is a problem? If we give the example of the MES scandal, we had one of your colleagues here in this room who basically told us that it would be difficult to come out a solution because there are interested parties who are sitting on some of these committees themselves and are then not able to call out people or call out their own colleagues who have their hands in the proverbial cookie jar because they don't want to call out their body. I mean, it sounds so simple, but that's what we are looking at now. So even if somebody who is in the role of oversight, you have your friend who may be in a difficult quote-unquote position, but then you're not going to call it out. So you can imagine if you who's sitting at the place of power, quote-unquote power, is not able to call out something that you see, how much more the Kenyan who is on the periphery waiting for you to do something?
But even more significantly,
so is the self-interest not another huge block that you have to deal with?
You see, if the optics of it are not very positive, if from the perspective of the Mwananchi, because then all you require is the mention, not the evidence provided, just mention of someone who is in parliament, and the optics are that they are complicit, that people who are in that position are part and parcel of the problem that we have. So it's like asking the corrupt to investigate themselves. Because even as you say you are limited, we agree you are, but even within those limitations, what is this outstanding thing that you could say the Senate has done, apart from impeaching one or two governors?
In the end, Parliament will give a report. At the end of every committee work we do, we give a report that is adopted in the floor of the House. And more often than not, where corruption has been highlighted as an issue, even when you look at the MES report, and even if you look at some of the exit reports that we have as an ad hoc committee, and even the work that is ongoing right now around KEMSA and all that, in the end, Parliament will give these recommendations, which will still require the machinery of our Constitution to still pick it up and take the investigations to the next level. So I always say that even if colleagues cannot call out each other, in the end, even the Auditor General, for instance, or the DPP, in the end, they'll have to pick up these reports and they will have to do now further investigations so that they can introduce it now to a court of law, for instance.
But do
and
they,
it is in those other
sorry to
mechanisms
interrupt you, but do they actually? Because the thing is that as we are looking at it from here, a report has been given, again, using the example of the MES. Senate, or rather the committee, rejects that report and says, no, further investigation needs to be done. Certain names have to be brought out. Otherwise, we are not going to accept this. But you know what it looks like to Kenyans? That report has gone up in smoke. Nobody's going to touch it again. Millions, billions of shillings have gotten lost. And it's just another case that has gone down the drain. That's what it looks like to the rest of us.
In fact, Senator, you give a perfect example when, with reference to the debt that the country currently has, because I take the view that oversight means not just assenting to something that has been brought before you, but and questioning it, but putting a halt to it. I mean, for instance, what were the reasons? I mean, I'm sure there were reasons. Why did Parliament raise our capacity to borrow to the trillions that we now have? What were the sound reasons behind this thinking? Because I'm taking the positive view that there was some sound logic behind it. What was the logic behind it?
I think I can't speak very authoritatively around that particular issue. It happens mostly at the National Assembly. But I can tell you the fear of the government, won't have money to run. You want to grind the government to a halt. You don't want to do that. So let's allow them, to borrow a little more, and then they can now put their house in order. I think some of the conversations I had around the members of parliament were around that. You can't let the government, grind to a halt, which is honestly unfortunate, because in my view, we should have had a situation where we are telling the government, no, go and come back and tell us, how you're going to live within the means that, the country has, rather than taking us to that good level.
I take it that people in parliament, Senator, intelligent people. From what I've observed, there are people who have had a sterling reputation in the careers that they have had. But surely, everything that we're seeing now is that it didn't help. All we did was postpone the inevitable. The government is grinding to a halt, as we see, right before our very eyes. So what exactly did we help? What did Parliament really do to help?
We didn't help. That is the truth. No need to quote or sugarcoat it. Honestly, it didn't help. Like you said, we have postponed the problem. And now, we're in a serious situation. Just the other day, we were launching the Council of Governors was launching the policies for jump-starting the economy in the counties. And when I was given just a very short, opportunity to speak, I said, unless we build trust back in the country by fighting corruption and fighting it in a manner that can be visible and seen and starting from the most higher levels, then what are we talking about? And of course, I mentioned about healthcare. I mean, you can't jumpstart an economy when you have a broken healthcare situation, because that is something we must speak to on a daily basis, because that's what we are, encountering as a country. But I'll just come back and tell you that right now, with all the investigations that are going around KEMSA and the PPEs, and you can see really Parliament has been seized of it, because it's a good opportunity for first Parliament to demonstrate and show Kenyans that really, if we apply ourselves, then it is possible we can get to the bottom of things. Unfortunately, things move a little too slowly. In my view, it's a bit frustrating. The pace at which everything moves is a bit slow. But you can see, some of the highlights of some of the meetings that are ongoing. Now, I'm not, my committee is no longer sitting in those investigations. We handed that over back to the Health Committee. And you can see, the process that the Health Committee is going through, both at National Assembly and at Senate, including the public accounts committees. They've all been seized of this issue. And we can begin to see then Parliament doing what it's supposed to be doing, throughout its course of life. And that gives us a little hope that at least...
And to what end?
That's where the frustration comes in as well at the same time, because we can see all these sittings. It's not the first time. The Public Accounts Committee of the National Assembly over the very many years has had sittings and questioned very many parastatals and other state agencies on how they are spending their money. Similar to the Public Investments Committee. If we just look at what is happening in terms of investigations over the Senate, over KEMSA, the Senate has an investigation. The National Assembly has 2 investigations over the same issue. Health Committee has produced a report. As that is going on, Public Accounts is sitting right now. It will produce its report. Senate Health Committee is sitting right now, investigating the same matter. It will produce its report. Those are 3 reports over the same issue that are going to the National Assembly and the Senate. From where people sit, especially looking at what we just saw with the MES scandal and the committee that had been set up to investigate that, you can understand the frustration of the population when they think, okay, this is another whitewashing exercise. This is another exercise maybe where people will be called, they'll be summoned, they'll be questioned, and maybe at the back, there are some politicians who are playing dirty games by saying, okay, ukinipatia hii, sitaweka jina yako kwa report. These are not unfounded thoughts and fears of the people. How can we assure the people that if a matter goes before any committee of the Senate or any committee of the National Assembly, or indeed the entire House, that this can actually be prosecuted faithfully?
Well, a committee will perform depending on the chairpersons, mostly the chairperson who drives the agenda of the committee. So it's as good as the agenda of the chairperson on how far and wide the committee will go. But when it comes to the many processes that are now happening for the COVID during this KEMSA hearing, I'll say that in fact it's good that we have several committees that are seized of this issue. So in the end, we shall compare the reports that shall come. And I doubt if we have several reports coming, those wash questions, I don't think will arise in this particular case, like we saw in the MES report, which a lot of senators, of course, were very disappointed, and there's a demand that it should be brought back through the health committee for, to be introduced. The question should be reintroduced back into the House because, of course, we were not happy with that report in the end. So I think the fact that there are many committees handling this thing in itself is not a bad thing entirely. It may sound repetitive. It may sound like a waste of resources with all these committees sitting and the same people going into each of the committees and answering questions. But you have seen also what has happened when you prod a little bit deeper, actually is when you get these questions, people crack and the truth begins to come out. And I think you can hear from some of the investigations that are going on, you can now hear people speaking more boldly on what was happening in the backdrop of things. So I don't think it should be looked at in a negative way. I think we should just say it's a step forward. I would look at it from that point of view, that it's a step forward. And just to encourage Kenyans, the fight against corruption and the high level of corruption we've seen in this country, it will take some time. It will take some time, and it will require everyone to pitch in. In fact, I think it was here where I called in one time when I had the Kenya Medical Association. The new CEO was speaking, I think, to yourself about his involvement and how the KMA is involved with government, and that they may have an idea about the COVID billionaires. That was at the beginning of our investigation. And I called into the studio and I said, if you know, why is it that you've not reached out to the committee, yet we are looking for these things? And then now that begs the question on the role of, say, private sector or even just as citizens when it comes to such issues of high-level corruption, because it's being done amongst ourselves. We know the companies that are doing these things, but we refuse to call them out. And, a time is coming when we must all rise up, even as citizens, and begin to call out even the private sector players.
Do you think it could have anything to do with fear, or not even fear, or reluctance? Because Kenyans have seen the way in which things have been handled in the past. So coming from them, even though they have any information and they pass it forward, they have their belief that nothing will actually be done about this. Based on the things that we've talked about now, there's interest, there's self-interest, there's interest of colleagues, and there's committee after committee. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because then how can you convince Kenyans right now with what is currently going on, whereby we have this whole mess with the healthcare system, whether you're looking at MES, whether you're looking at COVID billionaires, millionaires, whatever they may be, whether you're looking at health workers and how they're not being taken care of. How can we convince Kenyans that this money that is said to have been lost, mismanaged, misappropriated is actually going to help or come back, or at least be accounted for? You see the thing? Somebody may have information, but they look at the way things have happened historically. Can we blame them completely for not bringing it forward?
No, you can't really blame Kenyans. Of course, there is the feeling of nothing is going to be done. But Kenyans, we have to have these conversations very regularly and say we have to start somewhere. Honestly, our country we are eating it completely and having nothing left for our children. And we must remember that we have to leave a country for the children. Otherwise, we can't move to other countries. This is our home. There's nowhere else we can go. So we have to start somewhere. And the associations that we all ascribe to as professionals also have a very key role to play. And I'll give you an example. For instance, our Architectural Association of Kenya, by the way, I'm an architect. When you get several complaints about a professional and they do their investigation, because they have their code of conduct, they have their, disciplinary committees. We have architects who are disciplined to the point where their licenses are withdrawn because, people have come and complained to the institute about this and that and that. So an investigation is done, and this particular person then is listed, and it is actually posted in our platform that so-and-so's license has been suspended. Now, isn't that a step forward? And I say, if every association was doing this sort of a thing, we would be at least moving forward. Yesterday, I had a conversation with one of the public prosecutors, the ones who are now helping government, the private ones who have come in to help government. And he said to me, the process of pinning one culprit down, of course, takes very long. because it's our country. You're only guilty when the whole thing has been done. That's when you can be declared you're guilty, and then you're fined. And he said to me, we have to be patient, because I was asking him, why is it taking so long? Why does one prosecution take 8 to 10 years? He said, you have to be patient. But the important thing is, when we catch one, what do we do about it? And he said, there's a bit of frustration, because beyond just, charging them, what's the word? Fining. Beyond just a fine, we should see a situation where there's a repatriation, of course, which I think is happening in one of the cases, the high-profile cases. But there should be also a jail term. It should not be this or this, a fine or a jail term. It should be actually both.
Yep.
It should be both, because then the public needs to see that this person who did 1 or 2, 3 things, stole X amount of money, number one, has returned that money, and it will be returned in any form, whether it is properties or whatever, it will be repatriated from whatever length and breadth.
Mm-hmm.
But secondly, he has to serve jail time. We have to see this person go into jail. That way, then we begin to build the trust of Kenyans.
True.
And then we can get Kenyans to do what it is we want them to do, which is to rise up and speak out and, call out these issues when they come. And I agreed with the fellow, and he said, you people, because he was speaking to me as a parliamentarian, he said, you people must ensure this happens. But I don't know whether that's a parliament affair or it's a judicial affair, which needs to
add
change
it in
some
law.
of those
Don't
guidelines.
put it in the law as this or the other. Put it in law as this and the other. Senator, we want to thank you very much for speaking to us. Senator Sylvia Kasanga is the chair of the now defunct Senate Ad Hoc Committee on COVID-19. Nominated senator, very vocal and very active in the Senate. Asante sana for joining us and speaking to us this morning.
And thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Keep it right here. Now, time for us to take a break on KTN Home at 4 minutes to 8 o'clock. We'll be back with you on KTN Home in the next hour. Remember, in the next hour, we speak to Chief Magistrate in the Anti-Corruption Court, Douglas Ogoti, and we'll also be speaking to the Bishop of the Anglican Diocese of Mumias, the Right Reverend Dr. Joseph Wandera, still commemorating the International Anti-Corruption Day.
They are smart, they are funny, and unfailingly entertaining. They are the adults in the room, and they are here to help you be the best adult you can be.
Just to be very honest with each other here, not all of us are going to get tall, dark, and handsome. Not all of us are going to get 0.5s or chotaras. Some of us have to learn the short guys. Some of us have to learn those pot-belly people. Some of us have to learn older men or younger men.
Spice.
Don't ask your partner if he or she enjoyed it. I think the approach should always be, if she's enjoyed the journey, she will let you know.
Yeah.
She'll tell you, hey, maze, your bus is big. Mi sijaipanda basi kubwa kama hii. Juu hata hii basi, hiyo mafuta tulieka yote, imetuleta hapa vizuri. Hii basi iko na nguvu. Hii basi iko na nguvu.
Spice.
Now into a relationship, it becomes like you've stopped your life, and then now me, I am your life. You see, like, what happened to your life? What happened to you? What did you
And
used to
women
do?
are guilty about that.
Is your wife listening to the show?
Whether it is matters of the heart, finances, or work that's weighing on your mind, worry not. The adults in the room will help you stay winning.
1.5 minutes to 8 o'clock. The conversation continues right here. There's a quote. Who is this quote attributed to? It's been given to everybody. Stupid is knowing the truth, seeing the truth, but still believing the lies. When you see all these things about the fight against corruption, the statements that are made, we're fighting corruption, we leave no stone unturned, and people being arrested and being paraded in court, and then case takes forever, and you're like, really?
Everything comes to an end at some point. And there's a point at which words come to an end. And there's a point at which lies also come to an end.
At what point is that?
Well, they've been spoken of. You see, up until the time you're simply saying them, what authenticates it and stops it from just being words is what you do. But if a lot is said and nothing is done to accompany it, then the stage is set for, a situation where no matter what you say, no matter how well-meaning it is, even when you do something, one, it won't be appreciated, it won't be seen, and you will be everything that has to do with you. I'm talking about parliamentarians. We will be starting from a position of disbelief and unbelief.
It will always be disbelief and disbelief. Yes. Keep it right here. Good morning. It's now 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Traffic.
This morning. So there are security officers all along Mombasa Road today, and it looks like something might be happening there. So some roads have been closed off. Don't know if somebody of importance is passing, but we will have to wait and see. So if you head in that direction, you might want to slow it down just a tad or use an alternate route. Now, alternate routes in this case are the eastern bypass. If you're heading towards town, use that because it's probably better and faster for you to get off of Mombasa Road. Southern bypass also, if you're headed towards town, you can use that. It is longer, but it'll get you there quicker based on what we're currently seeing. Okay, so where else are we looking at traffic this morning? We are seeing Thika Road also slowing down right around the Pangani underpass. Going to take us a while to get out of this one. Coming out of Westlands also, you can use the Red Hill bypass. You should be fine because we have some traffic along Wayaki Way and it's slowing down considerably so because of the construction that's taking place. It also rained this morning, so that slows things down also considerably. Talk to us through the day, Spice FMKE on Twitter or text on 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your...
Thank you very much for keeping it here. This is broadcasting on Spice FM, on KTN Home, and we are online. We always begin the hour with the day's proverb. What is today's proverb?
Today's proverb is a Cameroonian proverb. There are no shortcuts to the top of a palm tree.
There are no shortcuts to the top of a palm tree.
Nope. The path is just one. Yes. Singular.
Okay. So this one I imagine that you are creating for those who are thinking of going the corruption route.
Well, corruption has many branches, so the analogy of the palm tree would be an antithesis. It's like an opposite of it. However, life in many ways is like a palm tree. You may think it isn't. All the leaves that you see in a palm tree, you mistake that leaf for a branch. Hold on to it and see what happens to you. You will come hurtling down. That's a guarantee.
You'll find yourself.
We find ourselves in a pleasant situation today. If it's anti, we are celebrating something odd, something new, and something wonderful. Wonderful in the sense that we've come to a realization that there is need for us to take heed, not just of what is ailing our country, but to name it and to have a day when we ponder and give ourselves time to think of the advances that have been made, the changes that we've seen, the daunting task that is before us, but also alongside it, people who are at the heart of fighting this menace that threatens to derail our whole country, and that is corruption. And with us this morning is the Chief Magistrate in the Anti-Corruption Court. Actually, I wasn't quite sure how to address one well, let me just call him Justice Douglas Ogoti. I don't know. I was reading this morning, and Justice, I almost called you Your Majesty. Then I realized, no, that would not be appropriate. So,
are you even justice? I mean,
well, he dispenses justice, so he is a justice. However, yes, I'm simply saying what went through my mind this morning, given what I was reading. However, it is an honor and a pleasure to have him. It is a task, an onerous task, and probably a very thankless one. And it's a task that falls on the shoulders of many people in this country who sit in this position, but more so on the shoulders of Douglas Ogoti, because he is the chief magistrate in this court that sees all the heavy-duty corruption cases at this court. And at the end of the day, they come before his court. And it is his rulings that hold sway and hold. Justice, I'm going to continue calling you Justice until you correct me.
Your Eminence.
Yes.
Your Majesty.
That is a good prayer, by the way. Yeah, one day I'll become a judge.
Sooner rather than later.
Yes.
Let me start by asking this question that has again been on my mind as I was thinking of the many things I was thinking. This is a daunting task. What would you say are some of the most challenging things that come along with this job of yours?
Wow, there are many.
Yes.
First of all, you lose your social life. Yeah, you lose your social life because of the kind of work you do, because of the kind of people you interact with. You are never sure who is your friend and who is your enemy. So you lose your social life totally.
Wow.
Yes, that is one and most daunting issue. It's gone. So you don't expect that we meet and have coffee somewhere open? No.
So every time you are out there, you're basically looking and wondering, so does this person represent some interest? Will this person appear before me tomorrow? And will I be expected to treat them differently? This is a daily challenge that you have to go through.
It's a daily challenge that we all go through in the anti-corruption court, yes.
So, Honorable Ogoti, not knowing what is who is a friend and who is an enemy, the enemy, as we've seen it, has been corruption for a very long time. And even as we are commemorating this day and, setting reminders and renewing the commitment and such, what kind of challenge has it been dispensing justice when it comes to corruption in the country?
Now, Kenyans have very high expectations. It's like an accused person should just be brought to court, he's charged, he's sentenced, and hanged. And yet there is what we call due process. Yeah? We've got to go through due process as provided for in the Constitution. Article 50 is very clear. So we get all tirades of manners against us. Nobody appreciates. But then now, what do? You've got to balance the act. You've got to balance the issue of fair trial. You also have to balance the issue of public expectations. That is actually a very big challenge, even before you go to the cases themselves. Yes. So it's a very big challenge. Very high expectations. Yes?
I'm saying the judiciary many times has been named as the bottleneck in the fight against corruption. And it has been said in no uncertain terms in terms of convictions by people in their minds. What would you have to say about this?
Now, I joined the anti-corruption case court 3 years ago. There was the issue of the judiciary being the weakest link. But let me ask you, what is the last time you asked for data from the anti-corruption court?
Myself personally?
Actually,
no, I wouldn't say that I have.
No, I wouldn't say we've asked for data. No. Would you recommend that we do?
Yes, I'm inviting you all to come and check our data for the last at least 2.5 years.
Yes.
The issue of the judiciary being the weakest link or a bottleneck is an old adage. You can speak to the DPP, you can speak to the EACC, you can speak to all stakeholders. that court has really improved. And then I would wish that anybody saying we are still a bottleneck or we are still the weakest link, let him come with the data from our court for the last 2.5 years. Yes. We have improved from a disposal of cases of about 35. We are now heading to 70% of our cases. Yes. So I'm speaking from a point of view of having data in our possession. I wish you had asked me, but if I talk about data, I'll talk about percentages. Yes. So when there was, I also discovered, you know, the way Kenyans are, we discovered that some people use the issue of the judiciary being a weak link to propel their own interests. Now, let me give you an example. Just one scenario. The Constitution provides for hearing of a case within reasonable time under Article 50. The accused is also given the right of a fair trial that is inderogable. You cannot take that away from him. Now, the scenario is this. For confidentiality, we don't discuss cases, but I can give you data.
Okay.
Where you have 38 accused persons, where you have 55 witnesses, where you have 25 advocates, all these are entitled to hear the case and for the advocates to cross-examine on behalf of the accused who are 55. Let's say each accused cross-examines for about six hours. Can you do your math and tell me what reasonable time is? Again, look here, we are human beings, and you see, corruption is in the mind. Don't forget that there are those who would want to scuttle the process by making so many applications, which they are entitled to. Once an application is brought, like there's a case now, before it hasn't started hearing, it's proper hearing, but there have been 15 applications. And you see, these 15 applications, you've got to go and write rulings. In this, when you write rulings at our level, we are not entitled to researchers. I've got to go back and do my own research. It takes time. Then all our processes, I take notes in hand. I take notes in hand. It takes time. There's one of my colleagues who has already written 3,000 pages. And being human, during the court process, don't forget that there's the issue of sickness. A judicial officer like myself could be sick, that leads to adjournment. The advocate could be sick, that leads to adjournment. The witnesses could be absent for one reason or another. And then sometimes when they feel that I've delivered a ruling that is not right to them, they go to the High Court, which is their right. The High Court says, before I decide this, I have to stay this matter. A stay means you actually block the case as long as it's in the High Court. Now, can you then say, these are some of the things that the common man does not know. Where is that weak link?
How is that the corruption, the court then, the judiciary being a bottleneck? I hear the frustration that you're talking about. There are a couple of things that are emerging. One is capacity and the resources that the judiciary has. Therefore, that the judiciary is able to deploy, for example, to an office such as yourself, the Chief Magistrate's Court. And then the other one is the officers of the court who know the kind of hurdles that you have to jump and you have to go through, then playing the system and frustrating the process of dispensing of justice. So let's start with this latter part, where you can clearly see that these are officers of the court, the lawyers who are coming here, the prosecutor, or even those accused, and they're trying to game the system so that it takes forever to dispense with this case. How do you deal with those, knowing full well that what they're trying to do is basically playing the system?
Now, you see, when you are a judicial officer, there is really nothing much we can do. But because the law provides for all theatrics that happen in court, if you come to court and see what is happening when a lawyer stands up to address the court, all those scenarios are provided for. Again, one other thing I would wish to communicate is that anti-corruption cases are not ordinary cases.
How so?
Anti-corruption cases, yes, I'm coming to that. Anti-corruption cases, unlike cases under the penal code, hizi wanasema cases za jinai under the penal code, are not the same. Anti-corruption cases deal with figures. Anti-corruption cases deal with public officers. Anti-corruption cases deal with documents. Usually you've had this issue of procurement. Most cases come from the process of procurement. From A to Z, procurement starts with requisition up to payment. About 12 processes in between that are recorded. It's not like an assault case. You meet somebody there, you've had your beer or so, you throw a punch, you hit that guy, and then you find yourself in court. No. These are cases where documents are in place. Now, why do I say they are not like ordinary criminal cases, which have been going on? The law that has been, I think the law that the Mwananchi knows is under the penal code. Now, if there is a law, and I'm suggesting to our parliamentarians, please give us a law that guides anti-corruption cases. Because assume you are a CEO, like some of the cases that are going on, I think if you've been careful, you've seen like now the case of KEMSA. I can comment on it even because it's not in court. You saw the issue of procurement. All documents are there. By the time the investigator finishes that case and forwards to the DPP, he's in possession of all those documents that were used. Because you cannot do anything in government service without putting it in black and white.
Yep.
We wish that a law is brought to let me use the word expose, because if I use some legal terms, it could be a bit difficult. Let them expose that evidence at the earliest opportunity. Why am I saying this? The law governing exposure of evidence, otherwise called disclosure in court, is the old law, whereby you're charged, and then it's that after some time is when you are shown the evidence against you. That leads to delay, because I have seen some investigators, and this, if anybody is listening and is an investigator, I'm saying it without prejudice. You tell them after plea, you give them 14 days to disclose, because the Constitution in any case says that Article 52J, that evidence to be used against the accused shall be supplied in advance. Ideally, the High Court has said advance should be, some decisions have said at plea, some decisions have said 14 days after plea. But anti-corruption, what I'm saying is that the evidence in anti-corruption cases is known from the word go. And in fact, those guys committing that crime know that they are not doing the right thing. Why can't parliamentarians pass a law that requires, once you are charged, evidence be disclosed? And then again, there has been the issue. These are my suggestions, very clear issues, because I've come across them. There is a debate that going on that the anti-corruption cases should be given time limits. If you look at the case scenario I've given you, how will the parliamentarians come to the time limits? It's very difficult, because there are those cases with one accused person. There are those cases with, I have another case with about 40 accused persons.
What?
So what we need is a law, just like the election law, governing procedure from charging to judgment. That is the only way people will stop throwing tantrums at one another. But the way the law is now, you'll never stop guys throwing tantrums at one another. Because like now, if we have a crooked IO, he'll sit on evidence, and there's nothing you can do, because you cannot throw out a case. And he knows maybe for one or two reasons, he's keeping the evidence in the drawer, in the closet. Yeah, so we need a law that compels all arms of government. You know, justice is a chain. from the report office to the prosecution. There are so many agencies involved. It should touch on what each agency will do. I'm telling you, if that is brought, I think the corrupt have a reason to worry.
So, Honorable Gotti, what I hear you saying is that the law as it is being used by individuals to kind of make these cases go in their favor. And a favor would be maybe a stay. A favor would be throwing a case out completely for lack of evidence, for example. So using law as it is what's happening, why it could seem as if the race to fight corruption is actually slowing down.
Yes, if like now you've heard of cases, a person being acquitted, and the matter has been in court for the last 1 year. Yeah, sometimes even the DPP does not know what is going on in court. If there is a corrupt fellow, my friends, if there is a corrupt fellow, you'll be the CEO sitting there, but you don't know what is happening in court.
Yeah.
You read in the papers that so-and-so has been acquitted. Why? Because of lack of evidence. And first of all, that file went to the DPP, and the DPP was given evidence. Yeah, they have very professional officers who give opinions on whether to charge or not. So why should a case be thrown out because of lack of
evidence?
Witnesses. Yes. So there must be some crooked person somewhere
playing the game.
And I'm speaking this because initially I was a prosecutor. I know what happened. Yeah, you can't bring a case without evidence. In fact, like when you are charging, a report and the initial investigations will show you that prima facie there is a case. But then, when the law changed now to require that all files pass through the DPP, I know that once he gives consent under Section 35 of ASECA, he has the evidence. So what happens in court is something else.
Yeah.
Yes. Because a case cannot stay honestly in court for 1 year without calling even a single witness, no.
Bona Chief Magistrate, there is the National Council for the Administration of Justice, which brings together very many other actors, the judiciary, the DPP, the DCI, and others. Has this matter been discussed by NCAJ, to the best of your knowledge, in how best then you can streamline the speedy prosecution of corruption cases?
Now, unfortunately, I don't sit in the NCAJ. I don't know. I don't know whether it has been cascaded there or it has captured their attention. But it's one thing we are seeking to bring up because we really feel that a time has come that the law should be amended to reflect all that I'm saying.
Okay.
Before you get to the NCAJ, we have our local NCAJs. We call them CUCs, Court Users Committee.
Yes.
What we are planning to do is to call a Court Users Committee and then cascade that issue up to the NCAJ. Yeah, it starts from the station level. They may not be aware because that is a very high organ up there.
Would you say, sir, that the funding that is allocated to the judiciary is adequate for the tasks that are required of them?
Wow, that is another problem. You see, when you are a judicial officer, you know all that you want. From the background I've given you, I can add one or two things that we are lacking, that when we seek for, we are told funding is not enough. And having been in government for that long, I know what my bosses talk about. Like now, look at the issue of researchers. Why can't all officers actually have researchers?
Yeah.
It will lead to quicker dispensation of justice. I record my proceedings in hand. We have no stenographers. The other day, I asked for the speech-to-text application. There are no funds. Now, how do we move along?
As you're saying, you write everything by hand. I was thinking, are you not allowed to record it digitally or use some recording device? Are you not allowed at all?
No. The law, everything has to be controlled by the law.
I agree completely.
The law has not reached there. Even when COVID came in and we tried to go virtual, before the Chief Justice gave the directions, advocates were up in arms. Your Honor, we don't have the law. So you can't do that. And honestly, we don't have the law. So there's a problem in that. Yes.
So what I am seeing, the bottleneck appears to be Parliament. Because it's, it's in Parliament where laws are made.
They have a biggest monkey here.
Yes. I mean, it's being passed on to the judiciary, but I asked the question because in the absence of adequate facilitation, it is not possible for the mandate to be carried out adequately.
No, it's not. Honestly, I can tell you, because if you look at the nature of cases, Hello?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, if you look at the nature of cases, and we are also required to perform by doing so many cases. In one case, I took a witness for 1 month, just one witness. So even the magistrates that are at the anti-corruption court are not enough. Yeah, because you can hear a case continuously for 2 years. Yeah. So we need more staff. Yeah. That is not something to beat about the bush. So long as we don't get resources, it will be slow. But if you get resources, nowadays the investigations have really improved. The prosecutors are really good. If you look at our data, that has enabled the court also to dispense justice. We are now heading at 70% of disposal of cases. But what I'm saying, if we get more resources, we'll move faster. And again, there's the issue of small and big fish. Our reasoning is that corruption is in the mind. To us, there's no small and big fish. But you guys in the media usually go for the high octane cases.
Yes.
Governor so-and-so has been charged, leaving so many other cases down here. So that is really another problem that puts a guillotine along our necks. And you see these very rich guys, they are entitled, as any other person is entitled. They hire the best lawyers in town. Yeah, those good lawyers come with applications, and there are many. They come with applications and counter-applications, and they're entitled to. What do you do? So if really the system wants to improve, I think there should be more provision so that we get enough judicial officers. Yeah, because once, the law requires us to hear cases on day-to-day basis. We do something that is called a pretrial. Once a person is charged, we require the DPP to disclose. The DPP discloses, and after due diligence, and everybody has been involved and satisfied that there is proper disclosure, even the accused is satisfied that I have all the documents, I have all the evidence, then we agree on a day for trial on daily basis. So now I have a case I've fixed up to June. If that case flops, then on that day there's nothing you are doing.
Of course.
Yes.
It's unfortunate.
So you can see, yes, we need more staff to be handling these cases simultaneously.
Honorable Douglas Ogoti, thank you very much for sharing your experience with us, for sharing your zeal and commitment to the fight against corruption in the country. Honorable Douglas Ogoti is the Chief Magistrate in the Anti-Corruption Court. We'll be speaking with you again soon, sir, and we hope that we'll be able to get you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Asante sana. Time for us to take a break on KTN Home, on Spice FM, and online. We'll be back shortly. And when we come back, we'll be speaking with the Anglican Church of Kenya Bishop for the Mumias Diocese. That's the Right Reverend Dr. Joseph Wandera, still on the matters of corruption.
Spice FM.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm syndrome.
our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot progress our country forward.
This
All right, let's look into
the
Nairobi
weather
today, where we're
with
looking at still partly cloudy conditions in most parts of the city. We'll see highs today of 25 and lows of 17. It's sunny in Nakuru at 18, going to highs of 26 and lows of 13 today. It's also mostly sunny in Nyeri at 18, going to highs of 23 and lows of 13. That's the current temperature in Eldoret. Mostly cloudy at the moment. It'll come down to lows of just the same, with highs of 23. It's mostly cloudy in Kisumu at 22, highs of 27 today and lows of 19. The lows will be 14 in Kakamega today, currently at 20, going to highs of 30 and mostly cloudy conditions. It's raining in Mombasa at 26. The high will be 30 and lows of 25. Mostly cloudy conditions in Malindi at 21, highs of 28 and lows of 15. It's also mostly sunny in Kampala at 19, going to highs of 26 and lows of 19. Dar es Salaam is sunny at 24. The highs will be 31 and lows of 24. Johannesburg is sunny at 16, going to highs of 23 and lows of 16. Lagos, light rain this morning at 32, highs of just 32 and lows of 25. And it's clear in Kinshasa at 22, highs of 32 and lows of 22.
Spice up your life.
Okay, so Juja Road this morning is where it seems to be jam-packed just a little bit, getting in and out of the city. So we're also seeing that on Mombasa Road, still clogged up right from the SGR through to General Motors. After that, though, it seems to be fine. On the service lanes on Thika Road today, this is where you want to avoid. Stick to the main highway. You're going to get where you're going a lot faster than if you try to move. Forest Road, yet again, yes, is the one that you can use today without any problems. Other than that, we're seeing slow movement coming out of Westlands, getting into the CBD, but it should be all right because it's not too bad at the moment. Traffic is not causing too much of a nightmare this morning. Let's see what it looks like in about half hour or so. You can keep in touch with us on Spice FM KE on Twitter or text on 40127.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room. Thank you very much for tuning in this morning on Spice FM, on KTN Home, online. In the room this and every weekday morning is CT Muga, Nduoko and Eric Latif. Today is the International Anti-Corruption Day, and to commemorate this day, we're having an anti-corruption conversation. So we started off early in the morning with the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. We spoke to Senator Sylvia Kasanga, looking at fighting corruption from the legislative front. We have just been speaking with the Chief Magistrate in the Anti-Corruption Court. This is Douglas Ogoti, and he's told us about the kind of, frustrations or what they go through with it, just from the simple, basic fact of imagining one case, 38 accused persons, 55 witnesses in the case. Each of these 38 accused persons has maybe 2 lawyers, that we're talking about 76 lawyers, and all of them have a right
to be heard.
When will that case move? We asked the same question of the Director of Public Prosecutions, and he said, okay, now we are trying to review and see how we can do that, consolidate some of these cases, convert some of these accused persons into witnesses, then they can participate as witnesses, so they're not being charged. But still, from the Chief Magistrate's point, I'm dealing with this. I am dealing with a case that he has just told us. I'm dealing with a case that I've actually scheduled until June next year. I'm going to be hearing this case every week until June next year. In between, if I fall sick, an adjournment. If any of the accused fall sick, an adjournment. If a lawyer does not, something happens, it's an adjournment. Then in the middle of this, we have maybe a public holiday, maybe referendum day, adjournment.
It's a quagmire.
And he has to listen to all of them. He has to have a pen. Can imagine the number of pens that he has, and he's just writing.
But more importantly, magistrates are lawyers, as are
prosecutors.
Precisely, as are the people who defend the people who come before.
Yep.
So they will know the process and procedures that are required, and they will know exactly how to ensure that their clients benefit from the system.
It's just looking at it and saying, okay, so what do we do? How do we go?
How do we stretch this thing?
How do we stretch it? It's and like he says, the law is there. So when it comes to that proposal that even had been there in the miscellaneous amendment bill earlier, let's cap the number of years or the length that a corruption case should take to 2 years. He says, all right, you can put 2 years, but then if you haven't dealt with the other small laws that govern the procedure,
you won't have moved forward at all.
You won't have done anything
No,
much.
not really.
Let's move now the conversation back to the community and the society. We talk about corruption, and Kagushia of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission earlier mentioned this, and in fact, this was on the back of your question, CT. People in the society are the ones who participate in corruption. It's all of us. So if we get to a point where the younger generation, every young generation comes up and we have destigmatized corruption, as CT put it, so that now corruption is such a normal thing, it's what is expected of us, then how are we ever going to fight corruption? So let's bring in the moral compass of our society, and this is the religious leaders. And we are now joined by the Right Reverend Dr. Joseph Wandera, who is the Bishop of the Diocese of Mumias in the Anglican Church of Kenya. Good morning, Bishop.
Good morning, my brothers.
Thank you very much for joining us in the Situation Room. We also have a sister in the room.
And my sister, you're most welcome. I'm so gender insensitive. Apologies.
We'll just start off the back of a story. I mean, not a story, but a question that C.T. Muga had asked earlier, and I'm just going to give him that opportunity. Just ask the question again now to the True North.
Yeah.
As to how we address?
No.
I know exactly how to address His Grace. That I do. I do know how to address him. But
His Grace is normally the Archbishop.
Well, I'm being prophetic here.
So the bishop is.
Well, some people say Your Lordship, but it's an old colonial imperial designation, really.
I like it. I'm going to refer to you as Your Lordship throughout this interview. Now, Your Lordship, as we were saying.
Go ahead.
When it comes to matters of corruption, I had stated that one of our biggest problems is that it's become normal. We've destigmatized it. It's really not a problem. It's not an issue. And the church has been singled out as perhaps the one loose end when it comes to the fight against corruption. In this sense, the perspective has been the church has not involved itself by being at the forefront in the fight for corruption, against corruption rather. What say you?
We stand accused as charged. We haven't been forthright. We haven't been prophetic enough. In many cases, we have been part of the problem. Widespread religiosity in our sanctuaries with songs and powerful sermons, but very little engagement around what I call a national tragedy. Corruption attacks the foundations of democratic institutions. It distorts electoral processes. It perverts the rule of law. Corrupts employment and denial of basic services. And we are seeing that in Kenya. People are dying daily because of corruption. No medicine in hospitals. The doctors are on strike simply because they are not being paid. And I think our voice is rather mute, perhaps faint. So I think we stand accused, and yet there's so much we could do.
Now that we know and you have confessed your sins, I don't think I'm in a position to forgive you your sins. But what I can do is ask, when a problem has been realized in its entirety for what it is, what then is the church doing? And with this reference, maybe the best example you can give us is what the Anglican Church is doing. What is it? What is the Anglican Church's position on these matters? And what is it that they tell the prelates who work within the sanctuaries of the Anglican Church that they must do to fight corruption? What's the position, in other words?
There is some engagement going on, though. Last Sunday, in the Diocese of Mumias, across our parishes, we observed what we call the Anti-Corruption Sunday. And we in our 44 parishes, 148 congregations, the clergy spoke about corruption, and they had activities around corruption. We had a workshop at our diocesan headquarters where we invited a specialist to come and share with young people around corruptions. We have had conferences. We had a two-day conference at Sosa Cottages in Vihiga, supported by Hatua Trust, where all the bishops from the region, Nyanza and Western, gathered, and we were joined by the governor of Vihiga, Tichiro, just to share about the challenge of corruption and how we can actually stand up as church leaders, how we can raise our voices to be able to speak to this question and raise public awareness in our communities. So there is engagement, but there's a lot more that could be done.
It seems that there's been a lot of discourse. There's been a lot of talk, but then seeing again the church as the moral compass for society. One of the things, how can it be more than talk when it comes to then showing the way, leading the way? Speaking truth to power is one of the things that has been required or would be required of the church. How can we get this to actually be, a reality as opposed to things that we talk about?
Yes, I agree. We need to go beyond talk, but talk remains important. We must proclaim the reality of corruption in our congregations, in our community engagements. We must talk and talk and talk about the reality of corruption. But we must move beyond talk, I agree. We must promote action. There should be deliberate, actionable things that we actually move towards in terms of fighting against corruption. I foresee a case where Christians organize a march and they go to public offices saying we do not want this to happen because this is killing our children and our generations. I foresee cases where clergy and laity seek appointments with the leadership to publicly protest about corruption when it has occurred. But I also think we need to unify this process because corruption tends to fight back. And so I think churches should work more and more as a network that is comparing notes, and a network that is learning good practices on how to work together. Because churches and other religious organizations have something in common. They have this moral compass. They can be a very solid group if they network properly. So the question of unity, engagement with and partnership with Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, for example. In the Diocese of Mumias, we recently invited them, and they came to speak to our clergy, raising awareness about corruption, and actually sharing with us what we could do as a church step by step. But also prayer. We are a religious community where prayer is important. And just as we think about all these other actions, I think this is something to commend to God. God to grant us courage, God to grant us vision, God to grant us resources, so that the fight is really concerted, so to speak. So beyond words, there are very concrete things that we can actually do, and which we are doing in a small way. I think what we ought to do is to scale them up, God willing.
I believe the good word teaches that God is able to do that which is even beyond that we think and imagine. Now, when we talk about corruption, we sometimes talk about it as though it's an animate object that moves on its own. Corruption is manifested in people, and many of these people are members of churches. do the churches know? Let me talk about the Anglican Church. Does the Anglican Church have a program in which it addresses its congregants directly? Because you do know whether it's the governors, these people go to some churches, whether it is people who work within corporations, they work. Do we have a program that addresses people directly and asks them to be accountable given the faith that they profess to have?
I'll be honest with you. If you talk about a program, then you're talking about something that is coherent and something that is sustained.
Yes.
And not many churches, not many dioceses would have that. Our advocacy desks are not alive, and this is something that we need to pursue. Because if you speak about a program, then that program resourcing, that program needs sustainability. So what I would say is happening is that there is ad hoc mention around corruption, but nothing coherent, nothing consistent, nothing programmatic, so to speak. And I think that is the missing gap, that our churches need to come up with coherent, programmatic, well-resourced programs to speak around corruption. I agree with you. These people are in our churches. The problem is that the prophetic voice is dim. The prophetic voice is muted.
Why, Your Lordship? Why is it muted?
Yeah. There could be many causes. One of it is simply lack of courage. It takes courage, such as that of Prophet Micah, to be able to say, "Thus says the Lord." And yet these religious leaders are human beings. Sometimes they can be quite weak in their knees, And so
then perhaps they should change their professions and choose another profession.
Well, it may not be changing. It may just be reawakening.
Yes.
I think there is need for the prophetic voice to be reawakened. And that is why engagements like this are important. We must perpetually call church leadership to account in terms of what are they doing, what are they saying around corruption.
Do you see a space whereby the church can then buddy up with a lot of these other agencies that are working on corruption cases? The church has always been seen as, a standalone body and then always aligned with morality. But we're looking at something in this country that is endemic as corruption. Would the church then be able to join hands, or is there a space to join hands with some of these agencies and work together? So you're working multi-pronged, as they say.
Absolutely. Well, it is not true that the church has been seen as a standalone or is a standalone. The church historically works with many other partners. It works with Anglican development agencies. It works with World Vision. As a matter of fact, in the next few minutes, I'll be addressing staff of World Vision via Zoom. The church works with Anti-Corruption Commission. They were here 2 weeks ago to speak to our clergy. The church works with law enforcement. I have hosted the magistrate in Mumias in my office on a number of times around issues of gender violence. So I think the answer is there is plenty of space. You cannot fight corruption if you don't network, because corruption is multifaceted. Corruption is like something that has many legs. You need the police. You need the magistrates. You need the intelligence. You need media. So I would agree with you that yes, there's plenty of space. I think the challenge is to embrace that space, to recognize that space, and to embrace it.
Actually, Your Lordship, there's a position that the church holds that all the agencies you've mentioned cannot hold. And that position, in my opinion, has been lost. It's like the church has abrogated its functions to the other agencies, whereas the moral compass from which we function is pivotal to everything that we do. I am who I am, or you are who you are, because of that moral compass. All the other things.
Absolutely.
Yes. So if the people who are charged with the duty of ensuring that moral compass is the true north, or is where it ought to be, don't seem to do whatever is required to ensure that it is done, then I could take the position and argue that the moral decay that we have in the country is because the church has failed to do what it's supposed to do.
Well, I think I began by making a confession. I began by saying that we haven't spoken enough, we haven't acted enough. I suppose some of my colleagues may disagree with me. But I really think that the tragedy that corruption is in our country, this ought to be a matter on top of our agenda as a church. And rightly you speak about morality, the church as a custodian of morality. Archbishop Emeritus Eliud Wabukala is the chair of the Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission. I suppose that was deliberate because in him was seen potential for bringing a moral voice in this fight, and it's an existential issue because when you speak about the church is about human dignity.
Yes.
Jesus saying, "I have come that you may have life and life in abundance." You cannot have life in abundance when there is no clean water. You cannot have life in abundance when people have challenges around sanitation and housing. You can't have life in abundance when doctors are going on strike because they haven't been paid, they haven't been covered. And all these things are happening because we have simply brought down the country by corruption. This country loses over 1 trillion shillings annually to corruption. And this is money that could be invested in welfare. Mm-hmm. So I think I'll agree with you that the moral voice needs to speak much, much louder. Mm-hmm. And I think I and my other colleagues, we commit to doing much better. We commit to networking. Mm-hmm. We welcome media to join us in terms of amplifying our voices and all other stakeholders who belong to the family that actually sees this as a national tragedy.
I want to ask this question, Your Lordship. How well do you pay your priests?
Well, that's a very pointed one.
It's definitely pointed with good reason, because if yes. Our priests, our pastors are not well paid, they are going to be prey to powerful people within their congregation. That voice, that moral voice that they are supposed to have, will be dimmed by these individuals. So my question again, I don't want a figure, but I think you know what I'm asking.
I agree with you. It varies from context to context. Parishes in Nairobi, parishes in Kiambu would pay a little more, not a little more, significantly more. Parishes in rural areas, in terms of how they remunerate clergy, would also reflect the socioeconomic realities of those places. But the basic issue is that the question of welfare of clergy is critical as well in terms of the fight against corruption. But the major issue here is that this is a moral issue. When John the Baptist was declaring in the wilderness, saying, "Prepare your ways," if you read the Gospel of Matthew, he actually used to eat honey and locusts. He was not somebody who was living lavishly. He wasn't living in Mudaiga. He wasn't living in Runda. I think the issue is a moral voice. Thus says the Lord. And when the Spirit of God comes upon the people of God, as it were, regardless of their circumstances, they'll be able to speak out.
I look forward to a day, maybe, when the community, the society led by the religious organizations, would be able to pinpoint somebody and know this is somebody who's our neighbor, this is a relative, a brother, a parent, a cousin, who has participated or partaken of corruption, and we want to make it known to them that we do not like this. In such a way that, this person, if it's about not welcoming them to your home, not visiting them, not welcoming them into the church congregation, because you clearly know that this person was involved in KEMSA. They're the ones who got 1 billion shillings out of a company that was registered 2 weeks ago. It's out there in the public. Why would this person just continue, coming into the church and getting a front row seat? If we go to a point where we sent a strong message, then maybe we would start somewhere. And even the children who are seeing this then will start seeing there is a price to pay.
Well, there is an issue there about the nature of the church, and really the nature of the church is that it's a place for sinners. We all gather at the cross as forgiven sinners, and essentially God is inviting us to the altar. God is inviting us to the cross to repent, and so there's a level to which the church is an open space in terms of who can come there, even when your sins are as red as scarlet. You are invited to come to the church because that is the place of repentance, that is the place of conversion. And yet I agree with you that as church leadership, we ought to be more pronounced in terms of then how do we engage with people who are known, or maybe they have outstanding issues in the courts. How do we engage with them in such a way that our integrity as a church and our moral voice is muted, so to speak?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Right Reverend Joseph Wandera is the Bishop of the Anglican Church, Diocese of Mumias. Asante sana for sharing your views and your perspective.
You're welcome.
With us.
Thank you very much, Your Lordship.
Thank you very much.
Sante, have a good day.
Thank you. You too. 5 minutes to 9. Time for us to say goodbye to our audience on KTN Home. You've been with us since 7 o'clock. Join us again tomorrow morning on KTN Home from 7 to 9. But tune in to Spice FM and hear more of this conversation. In the next hour, we'll be asking you to join in and share with us. Do you think we are winning the war on corruption? Do you think we are winning the war on corruption? 0719012600 is the number that we'll ask you to call. Our frequency is 94.4 in Nairobi. In Mombasa, it's 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu. Nakuru is 96.0. Eldoret is 96.7, 90.9 in Nyeri. And Malindi is 97.7. Keep it right here. The conversation continues. Okay, so we've heard from the bishop, we've heard from the chief magistrate, we've heard from the senator, we've heard from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, or various angles and various inputs in the fight against corruption. We have some sort of clarity now why we still have corruption happening today as we speak right now.
I had clarity before. My beef here is with the role of the church. And I'm calling it a beef because it is a beef. The role of the church, the role of religious leaders is so utterly important, that when it isn't carried out to the letter, we are then like a rudderless ship as a nation. And calling out is something that is part of the mandate of that particular office. They are the ones who ought to be able to tell the leadership that are very top, say, here you are wrong, not here wrong as in you are wrong and you shouldn't be doing this. They don't.
Yep. The issue that I raised, and the bishop actually responded by saying, church and the other religious places are the places where you are open, you welcome.
Anybody can come.
Anybody can come in.
He is right.
At the same time, remember that even as they come in, they don't come and start trading in that. That's the reason why the Lord Jesus had serious beef with those who were trading.
He whipped them. It wasn't had beef. They overturned tables, whipped people.
He was calling out corruption. He was saying, no, this is not where you're going to practice it.
And those who want, those in the church who are supposed to oversee these things and ensure such things don't happen, he had a term for them. He called them whitewashed tombs. Not very pleasant. No, I understand why it is they disliked him. He didn't have very nice things to say. Now, I find it's the last bastion of hope that you are supposed to have. And unfortunately, it isn't. It's like the church has become secular.
Wow. Comments coming in on Twitter. What is Mystic Edward Nganga saying? The church must fail, and this is the reason why the Messiah must come. If the church succeeds, then we don't need the Messiah. But Abraham says, don't be deceived by the bishop. The church and the corruption are one. Why would you be why would you bite the finger that feeds you? Churches are obsessed with unending harambes, and they tend to oftentimes attract the overly corrupt human beings.
It's the truth to some people, and that's what they see as in terms of what is actually happening.
And why
Which
do
is
they
why
see
they
it?
need to call them out.
Yes, and
because
why do
of the
they see
silence.
it? Yes.
Because of the deafening silence that
Yes.
sometimes comes from these
You
quarters.
see, that what you're hearing is disappointment that arises from expectations that people have had from the church. Now, those expectations are built by the church themselves by presenting themselves as an institution that does certain things. And we are saying those things are not being done, and we can see them as not being done.
Okay. So what do you think? Are we winning the war on corruption, or what do we need to do to win the war on corruption? 0719-012-600 or Spice FM KE on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Please share your thoughts on this. That's what we'll be doing in the next hour. Good morning. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Eric Latif, Nduoko, and CT Muga on this International Anti-Corruption Day. We have focused the show on the fight against corruption. It's now 9 o'clock.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
Okay, it hasn't gotten any crazier this morning. I'm still seeing just a little bit of traffic on Mombasa Road. A little bit here in the nooks and crannies of Thika Road as well. But it's not too terrible. It's been a good Wednesday as far as traffic is concerned. A few holdups here and there, but as you're getting where you're going, you should have already gotten there. If you've just started out, it shouldn't be too painful. All right. Still asking you to talk to us through the day if you do get stuck somewhere. But from what we see, apart from the normal, because of the construction in certain parts, apart from that, we should be all right. Spice FM KE on Twitter or text on 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have CT Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
All right.
The only way to start your...
What people are saying about corruption in the country.
Well, sure, all across board. Anthony Kamau says there's nothing to be happy about on Anti-Corruption Day. High-profile cases involving political bigwigs are hard not to crack. I'll only trust the process once the mentioned governors, MPs, civil servants, and their corrupt networks are pinned and made to pay for the pains they have consistently caused innocent Kenyans. Anything else is ping pong. My dilemma is the government has good policy and many commissions with well-educated leaders, but come to implementation, and that's where corruption is planned and executed. That's according to Hannah. Right, so Pauline Miner says, I really don't think that we're winning the war on corruption. We still have such a long way to go. Dan Alila says, cases with proper and incisive documentation have been thrown out, weakening the public trust on the judiciary, for example, in the Ruaraka land scandal. To be honest, Kenyans are rather simple to prosecute. Financial trail rather easy, not complex, according to John Washira. So why does it take so long? How is this done in the West, really? Dan also says, are the legislators charged with oversight representing their clients in corruption, stifling the war on corruption? And there's so much, but Mystic Edward says, corruption was began by the archangel when he tempted Eve in the Garden of Eden. We ourselves are the offspring of corruption. It's like we're in denial when we talk about graft. Satan doesn't own anything. He doesn't even own the hell he's assigned to. Stop giving him ownership of areas. That's what he says. Fred says, oversight by Parliament is a matter into futility. DCI and DPP should be empowered to deal with corruption. So it's quite a lot in terms of what Kenyans feel.
There's actually somebody who's, I think, giving a different view when it brings in, the issue of Satan and who to blame. If you scroll down, I saw something close to that. If we continue blaming the system, below that, there, for as long as we remain.
Oh, right.
Oh, that's it. That's still the same.
It's the same
Mystic
thing.
Edward. As long as we keep blaming the system or government, we are no different from Adam, who blamed God for creating Eve. It is this woman that you give me.
Fix the system is what we're hearing from this.
Okay, so let's hear from CT, today's proverb, and then we invite your views on this. Are we fighting the war on corruption? What do we need to do to fight corruption in the country?
There are no shortcuts to the top of a palm tree. But remember, I laced this particular proverb with a quotation from one prolific writer, French dramatist, poet, writer, by the name of Victor Hugo. And this is what Victor Hugo had to say. The soul is left in darkness. Is that what he said? No. He said, if the soul is left in darkness, sins will be committed. The guilty one is not he who commits sin, but the one who conquers darkness.
Okay.
No, not conquers. Causes.
Causes.
Yes.
Creates the darkness.
You know, it is amazing. I'm using the word amazing because it is amazing, really, how it is wrong can be normalized. How, given time, it becomes so much the norm that there is no energy to even fight it. Even when you know academically or mentally that this thing is not right, the energy to actually move against it is not there. Ask yourself, you're going to ask the question, are we winning this war? Is there even energy to fight it? Part of the thing that is daunting and depressing is that any agency, any institution that you feel ought to, let's leave the church out of the conversation for a while. Just when you think these people will get to the heart of it, something comes up and they're right in the middle of something. The very, very thing they're supposed to be fighting. So you feel goodness. Are we really ever? That's why the question becomes pertinent. Are we really ever going to win this
get
fight?
out of this thing?
Is that a what? Lack of goodwill by the people?
You know, this story of goodwill, I don't particularly buy it. It's not goodwill.
What is it?
It is moral. I'm trying to think of a word that is polite and yet explains what I'm trying to say. I'm going to call it moral ineptitude. If the concept of right and wrong in your mind is muddled up, then it means in your mind right can be wrong, wrong can be right, essentially, so long as it's expedient. So your right and wrong is determined by expediency. If I can get away with it, it is okay. So it's neither wrong nor right. If many people don't seem to be against it, then it's okay. And that's where the role of the church comes in, because they're the ones who ought to be saying, no, we're not okay with it. We are definitely not okay. And we're not okay with you doing this, you, who is our member. Not calling somebody out in a congregation, but taking time out and telling him, sir, we know you're involved in this. This is wrong.
Right, it's wrong, and then we're also not going to entertain you using it as a platform continuously to push whatever agenda you may have, and think that you can give away some kind of handouts, and then there will be a blanket over this attitude.
So, sir, we are not going to be taking your contributions to the church because of A, B, C, D. Now, the person may move churches, let them. Okay. But they will know that they have been called out.
The message has reached.
You see, the reawakening that the bishop was talking about begins. The person realizes, goodness, I'm not getting away with this thing. So you now start thinking about it. But so long as there is no direct calling out, then your conscience is sufficiently compromised and soothed. So you don't really have to worry about it. Something that pricks your conscience so that even if you're doing wrong and you permanently know it is wrong, you really want to do it indefinitely.
So at what point then did we lose that conscience? Because I'm not talking about that those in government, those in positions of authority.
We're talking about as a nation.
As a people. Today, if somebody came to you and told you, you know what, there's this deal that's going down at KEMSA. So you have a company. Good. Let's use that company. We're going to get. I have my guy in there. He's going to give us a deal. And the first thing that comes to mind is, okay, that's. I mean, he knows someone. He can do it. He's well connected. We can actually get some money. That's the first thing that comes to very many people's mind.
True.
It would come to many. So at what point then did we lose that conscience of thinking of, no, why do I want to do that?
You know, Eric, these issues around KEMSA, the actual procurement and who procures them, I actually don't even have a problem with that. My problem is when you find one procedure that was supposed to be followed, it has not been followed, it's subverted.
But that's the thing.
Okay? So you have a situation where you wonder, why then do you have pre-qualified suppliers if anybody can come with a month-old baby of a company, okay, and get, and they have no record of showing that they've done. Yes,
you know very well. You don't even know how the N95 mask looked like.
You have no clue.
And now here you're being told, we're going to supply N95 masks, put it at this price.
And here you're asking, is it that thing that you put on the head? Yes. Or is it the one you put on the knee? And you say, no. This one you put on your face. Okay.
So we put how much?
How much? Yes. Exactly. Now, when you, Eric, there's no single day. It's not a road to Damascus experience. No. What it is a very steady corruption. Steady. Slow, steady, but very sure.
So we're not winning the race against corruption, then the fight against
right now,
we're not winning the fight.
We're not fighting.
So
that's
if everything,
saying.
so
yes,
all of these,
thank you.
Look, all of these things that have been done, over whatever sector you want to look at it from, we're not even fighting.
No, Eric has got it. He's got what I was going. We're not fighting corruption. We're contributing to it.
So the approach then needs to change.
What we are fighting is not being involved.
Yes.
So then the approaches need to change,
and we are and we are fighting when we're not included.
Yes.
And we are fighting others. How dare they make so much money and I've not been called in to participate? That's what we are fighting. The noise you hear has very little to do with wrong and right. It has been, why have I been left out? Even I could have done with a few billions. So, are we winning the fight?
We're not fighting.
The fight is winning. Corruption is winning. Okay? We got lost. We lost ourselves to it a long time ago.
Do you agree with City Muga? That is actually now the question. We've turned around the question. Are we fighting the war of corruption?
No.
What do we need to do to fight?
No.
Are we fighting corruption? Do you agree with City Muga who says we are not fighting corruption at all? 0719-012-600 and Spice FM KE on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. Just call us. Let's hear this. Are we fighting corruption at all in the country? Jimmy in Malindi, good morning.
Good morning too.
How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm just switched to the Spice FM,
right?
7.7, and it's a bomb.
Kabisa.
Good. Otherwise, going straight to the point, corruption, we the citizens, due to our ignorance, we are calculating and we are definitely growing corruption. The citizens are the ones who are supposed to be blamed at a very high percentage. Reason: we elect leaders that we know are corrupt. Leaders that have got cases of corrupt cases that are lying in court, others in commission, others not attended to. And the ethics and anti-corruption, just the name by itself, what comes first is ethics, then anti-corruption.
Yep.
The commission itself even does not have ethics, because we cannot say we are anti-corruption while we forget that also ethics is part of what the commission is supposed to be looking at. Definitely going straight to an example, you find a leader taking a gun, shooting at a person straight on the head like this, aiming at the person like this. Even if the family and those people accepted and they said, we are sorry and forgave each other and removed the case out of court. But due to lack of ethics, so the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission was supposed to act, or is supposed to act, on such a matter and kick that person out.
Jimmy, are you
Because
saying that
ethically,
the
these
Ethics
people
and
don't think.
Anti-Corruption Commission are not doing their job?
They are not doing their job at all, nothing. In fact,
Is that really
anti-corruption
true,
means-
Jimmy?
A moment.
Is it-
Anti-corruption means you are supposed to block corruption. You are supposed to set systems that are not going to accept corruption. But what we are seeing here is post-corruption. So it's not even supposed to be anti-corruption. It's supposed to be post-corruption. Because after the corruption has been done, and people have pushed and pushed and pushed, that's when they start acting. And the only thing they can tell us is that we have taken 7 billion. We have got back 7 billion. But we are not seeing these people who had these 7 billion. Are we seeing them being apprehended? Are we seeing them being taken to prison? No. So, going to the other issue is that we have got very poor government policies. A government policy where that if a government officer is found with corruption in Nairobi, these people they are transferred to Lodwar. They are transferred to those other hard condition areas. Are we supposed, so the people who are in Lodwar or maybe Lamu or in other parts of the country which are remote, are those people who are the ones who are supposed to get these corrupt people coming to their places? So we should not have transfer of any corrupt leader. Anyone that has been found with corruption should be kicked out. Look.
You know, Jimmy, there's a problem here.
Clearly.
What you're saying perhaps is what is presented, but we had the chief magistrate in the courts, the Anti-Corruption Commission courts, and one of the things he told us very, very clearly was that following due process not only takes time, but it is due process and it is the law and it must be followed. So much as there are people who may be deemed as corrupt and may have, unfortunately, the matters have to be taken to court and evidence has to be produced. Accusing someone, even if you saw them stealing, that if it goes into a judicial system, unfortunately, the go to jail straight will not happen.
It enters the system.
It enters the system.
But Jimmy, thank you for
Very
your
good.
contribution, and we are taking other callers as well. 0719-012-600. Are we winning the war on corruption? CT Muga says we are not even fighting corruption in the first place. Let's start from there. Do you agree with him? Do you not? Let's take a look at the weather and then we continue picking your calls. 0719-012-600.
Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources, yet we have real challenges in this country?
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
All right, it's mostly cloudy in
The
Nairobi,
weather
so
with
we'll
Spice.
see some sunshine at 18 degrees currently, going to highs of 25. Sunny conditions in Nakuru at 19, going to highs of 26. The high will be 23 in Nyeri. It's mostly sunny at the moment at 19. And the high will be 23 as well in Eldoret, mostly cloudy at 16. It's mostly cloudy in Kisumu at 23, highs of 27. And also in Kakamega, the high will go to 30 today. Mostly cloudy conditions with a huge chance of rain. Light rain in Mombasa this morning still going on at 28. It will go to highs of 30 and lows of 25. Malindi is mostly cloudy at 23, going to highs of 28. Sunny conditions in Kampala at 21, highs of 26. And we're looking at Dar es Salaam, where it's partly sunny at 26, highs of 31. Johannesburg is sunny at 17, going to highs of 23. And light rain in Lagos now, 26 at the moment, highs of 32 and lows of 25. And still sunny in Kinshasa at 22, going to highs of 32. Beijing, sunny at 2 degrees, highs of 4 and lows of -4 today. It's getting colder in Paris, where it's now -1 and mostly cloudy. That'll be the low for today, going to only a high of 6. And 6 is what it is in London, and we'll go to highs of 7 and coming down to lows of 5. It's going to remain at 2 in New York for some time. Clear, however, only going to a high of 4.
up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
19 minutes to 9. The problem with Kenya, according to Jefferson Musalia, is that those who are chosen to deal with corruption are the ones who are corrupt. How can we beat corruption?
I mean, beating it just seems like a total overhaul is what is required when people want to look at this, because it's gotten into, I mean, what do you do with something that's rotten at its core?
Actually, the truth of the matter, if you ask me, is that the suffering that people think that Kenyans are undergoing hasn't reached the crescendo that perhaps need to reach, so that it can be understood that it's actually being caused by this corruption that you're participating in. It hasn't reached there. It hasn't. It's like someone who finds a baby snake and forgets that the snake will grow up. When that snake grows up, you know that snake will bite you at some point. Yes.
It'll become something.
Yes, when its instincts are in full bloom, and it's no longer the cuddly little worm that you're playing with, okay? And it becomes this, it will behave like snakes tend to behave. And unfortunately, corruption, when it's rampant, is not very different from that snake, because it's like it acquires a life of its own. And that's what we see in this country, where it's everywhere to the point where you're actually overwhelmed. Just thinking about it is befuddling to the mind.
Let's go back to the phone lines. Sami in Magarini.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Sami.
How are you doing, everybody?
We are well, Sami.
Thank you.
Okay. I want to tell you that fraudsters or people commit corruption think 7 times that they are managers than they are secretaries in any office. So I think the managers should actually be trained to think more than the fraudsters. You know, sometimes I was asked that, how many times do you think per day?
How many times do you?
Yes, yes. Are you getting me?
No, sir. Just
repeat what you said. How many times do you do what per day?
How many times do you think per day?
Do you think?
And the answer, some people answer that 70 times, some 100 times, but the answer was about what?
Indeed.
We lost him. Brian in Nairobi, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, Brian?
I'm good.
Are we winning the war against corruption?
No, first of all, we are focusing on different kinds of corruption. To me, we have 2 types of corruption. We have the systemic one, the one in the police force where you have to give something, in the government institution where you have to give something to get the services. And then we have the headline corruption. That one is what most people focus on the headline corruption, more than the systemic corruption. And both affect us the same way. You see, this systemic corruption, let's say you have an issue at Ministry of Lands. You cannot get your titles because some few people want A, B, C, D. That thing affects more citizens than this headline corruption. The problem with this headline corruption, those people are sophisticated, and those issues are very complex to solve. It's not a black and white thing. And on that headline corruption, people take the risk-reward matrix, where the higher the risk, the higher the return. Like myself included, I cannot steal my neighbor's chicken or blah, blah, blah. But if I get a chance to make 1 billion shillings, then I look at the risk and the reward. 1 billion shilling is better reward than the risk I'll face. So those headline corruption are like that. People will take that risk. If they get away with it, they go away with it. But the beauty of that headline corruption and how we are dealing with it, there's asset recovery agencies right now that when you are taken to court and you cannot explain how you bought this house, how you bought this car, it's forfeited to the state. I think that way it will make people think twice before they acquire something. Because maybe you acquired 10 million, you bought a house of 15 million, that 5 million was yours, but since you cannot account for this 10 million,
all 15 goes.
The house is forfeited. So somewhere we are winning, But we should focus on both. We eliminate both the systemic corruption and the headline corruption. So we should not ignore one. There's no big crime and small crime. All of them are crime.
Crime is crime.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you for a
Thank
good
you very
point. 0719-012-600 is a number to call. Right now, we're taking your calls on this. 0719-012-600. How do we win this war on corruption? CT says we're not even fighting corruption in the first place, so stop this story. We are basically, let's start from there. Why is it that we are not fighting corruption?
We are participating in it.
We're participating in corruption. One of the cases, as we wait for calls, one of the cases that the EACC got some positive ruling on yesterday was, it was in November, was a case about the recovery of a piece of land in Mtwapa. So this piece of land belonged to the defunct East African Customs and Excise Department, which is now the Kenya Revenue Authority. It's a piece of land in Mtwapa, which was now being used by, when Revenue Authority officers were patrolling that part of Mtwapa, they would go and use that as their resting place. It was also a watchtower. A couple of years ago, a gentleman who was very active politically, and he's now deceased, his name is, I'm just going to give you the name right now, his name was Kenny Mohammed Sheikh Ali. In 1994, September, he had written to the Commissioner of Lands asking to be allocated this piece of land. And his argument was, he has done a lot for KANU, and he has not benefited from the fruits of Uhuru. This was how the letter read. I should take it kindly if you would allocate me the above plot number 293-111-MN. I have done a lot for KANU, but KANU has forgotten me completely. You can see for yourself the amount of money I have contributed throughout the Bahari constituency in Kilifi district. Everyone has enjoyed the fruit of Uhuru, save Mr. Kenny. So please allocate me this small plot so that at least I breathe a sigh of relief. On the strength of that letter, he was allocated that piece of land by the then Commissioner of Lands. Soon, even before he had even received that piece of land, he had already transferred it and sold it to another gentleman. And this gentleman had created a company that is owned by him and his family. And they put up a building on that piece of land. EACC won that case the other day, and now the land has been reverted to the Kenya Revenue Authority. See how easy it was. I have done so much for KANU, surely. You are giving everybody everything else.
And that's all you need to do to
just
convince
want
somebody
this
to
small
give.
piece of land. It is on the creek. It's not even a beach plot. Give me this piece of land. Let's go to Barasa in Utawala. Good morning, Barasa.
Good morning. How you guys?
Very well.
Very well.
Yeah, this corruption, is it war on corruption? In my view, there's a lot of noise over nothing. Not that corruption does not exist. It does exist. But the government or those charged with the responsibility have not done enough to show that they are serious about it. Because if truly we wanted to fight corruption, then our parliamentarians will have first a bit given teeth to the agencies fighting corruption. That's one. What I'm not a lawyer, but what I don't understand is how can, say, Kinoti and DPP arrest somebody, take them to court, and then they ask for time to investigate. Why did they take them to court in the first place if there was no evidence?
Yep.
So it's like a lot of this is just to pacify us as Kenyans, to show that there's something going on. But in reality, I don't think there is the will to fight corruption. If there was the parliamentarians, for example, the current government has, with the partners of ODM, they have a majority in parliament. What, for example, they will stop them from passing a bill in parliament which gives the president power not to fire, but to suspend any officer mentioned in a corrupt deal. It will be done. Number two is, can they give more resources to the anti-corruption courts so that we can see those cases being given priority.
So you feel that there's just too much talk, but no action.
Precisely, just too much smoke, creating excitement over nothing.
Okay, you have a point, Barasa. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
0719-012-600. So a lot of talk. But on the ground, we just want to continue with status quo because we are the ones who are benefiting from everything we're talking about. You cannot do something that will completely affect how you earn your living. Not earn your living, but yes, how you benefit from this gravy train called corruption.
That's what I'm saying, because now it's through all of these conversations that we are having, there's a personal interest that is included. So even if your hands may not be soiled per se, that you did not actively participate in this deal, maybe you're in a position now whereby you are in a position to call out somebody else, but then you don't do it because, there's a relationship there, or you don't want to be the one who calls out your colleague or the one that you might now have to do business with in the future.
Yeah.
But if you ask me, everybody who is who doesn't call out, whether you've put your hands in the cookie jar, whether you're the one sitting on a committee, are all agents of corruption. Everybody's involved in it. And we're looking at, okay, well, I can't really because, I have vested interest. No, you're involved in it. You may not have directly benefited from the proceeds. However, you're also stopping any kind of justice from being done, right? Any kind of this money being recovered. You're involved in the process as far as I'm concerned.
Time for us to take a break, 9:30. Then we take up more of your calls and also discuss this. And actually, let's discuss that role, the role of the agencies that have been given power by the people through the laws to be the ones that are watchdogs in the fight against corruption. Okay? Do they have interest in fighting corruption? 0719-012-600, 9:30. Let's take a look at traffic and then we continue with the conversation.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
In the face of COVID-19, life has been adversely affected, with nearly all schools in Kenya lacking basic hand-washing facilities, affecting more than 19 million children. Together with Davis and Shatleaf and True Black, we, the Standard Group, have partnered to collectively unite other corporates and individuals to join the initiative towards setting up basic sanitation facilities around the country. For more information, send an SMS to the short code 40616 or email standwithkenya@standardmedia.co.ke. Time to come together for tomorrow. It's our future. A partnership by Davis and Shatleaf and True Black and the Standard Group.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, just the way you like it.
The Spice Drive.
Did you have a great day? I hope you did. I intend to make it better from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. I'm going to be taking you home nice and chill. Everyone is welcome aboard. The hashtag is Spice Drive and, of course, Spice FMKE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
The Spice Drive with Monique. The official soundtrack of getting you where you need to be.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Traffic.
Okay, so it's looking much better, guys. I don't think we have too many issues right now. Mombasa Road, at least, is opening up quite some, not causing too much of an issue. Coming off of Thika Road now is Easy Street, basically getting into the CBD. I know there's a lot of overlapping that's happening on Kiambu Road at the moment, trying to then join the Thika Superhighway, but looking much better as you are going where you're going. Okay, let's take a look at it through the day. You get stuck somewhere, let us know. You give an indication of how it will look later on in the day. Spice FMKE on Twitter or text on 40127.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Still tuned into Kenya's biggest conversation. This is the Situation Room, and today we're looking at issues concerning corruption and where we are in terms of the fight. So, are we winning the war on corruption is the question. Are we winning the fight on corruption? It's come out that, are we even fighting at all? Are we filling the supposed boxes? Taking your calls on 0719-012-600. And we have Jeffrey on the line. Jeffrey, good morning.
Good morning, City and Eric.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
We are well, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I don't think if winning corruption is happening any soon, because the most recent case of KEMSA, even a politician is involved. So most of these corrupt dealings, politicians are involved. And I don't think if there is goodwill in leadership to win corruption, look at the judiciary. They are complaining the number of judges who are actually presented to our president for confirmation. Up to now, it has not happened. And the cases that have been there pending haven't been dealt with. Is it not a trick just to deal a blow to the judiciary that they cannot do their work? So I don't think if this thing will be happening any soon. It's just a talk that Kenyans will always forget and still bring them back to their position and continue their story.
Jeffrey, do you think that that is why some of the characters would vie for office? Because, you know, this is a direct route to getting into the gravy train, and then nothing will ever happen. You'll make sure that you cannot fight corruption.
Of course. Why now the numbers have to be increased? Yeah? Why the numbers have to be increased? So that at least some little noises that are happening there can also stop.
Can be accommodated.
Okay? It can be accommodated. You see, the case of our doctor, this young man, I was looking at where this guy come from. Okay?
Yep.
I know this is somebody who has acquired his degree by hardship. And now he's gone. And politicians are telling us, or they are telling doctors, hold on, let us pass the BBI.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
But your case will be considered later on.
Later.
And other politicians are shouting on that, agreeing on that, because we are led by politicians. We are not led by leaders who can actually lead us in the right direction.
Thank
so
you, Jeffrey.
That goodwill is not there. Our institutions are run by politicians, so it's not going to happen any soon. We just have to put up with it and pray to God.
Must we really put up with it?
What do we do? Because today, City, if a guy from your side, sorry to use that kind of language.
No, please go ahead. The question is a valid one. Continue.
Yes. If a guy from your side, your tribe, let me just use it, we are all Kenyans, I appreciate, I'm a Kenyan. If he's caught up with an issue, you'll stand with him and say, this is one of my own, I'm not going to support it. They are just handing our people. This is what is happening.
But that isn't corruption.
It is corruption.
What is that?
No, it isn't. If somebody has been accused of doing wrong and I support him, that's not corruption. And
it is corruption.
If somebody has been accused of corruption,
yes,
and you support
him, he's accused of corruption, and you are supporting this person.
But he's only been accused. You see, the point I'm making here is, you see, there are these musical chairs we play. The fact that someone has been accused doesn't mean that they're guilty. But in this country, we believe that the moment you're accused, you are guilty.
No. You see, the guiltiness is there because while the cases are dragged, while the institution charged with the same responsibility to ensure that the cases are moved faster so that we get who is guilty and who is not guilty, is it just another trick?
So essentially you're saying that our courts don't really work. You're saying that our courts don't really work, that what appears to be justice being dispensed in our courts is not really justice.
Justice is there. And in fact, Maraga has proven he can give justice because he once did it and he was told, we will revisit.
You know,
okay, is it not happening?
I actually get your point. I get the point you're making, but you see, my perspective is that as Kenyans, with the exception of a few people whom I probably don't know, we all corrupt.
Yes.
And we all participate in this process of corruption. So we should even stop talking about fighting corruption. We should just talk about how to enhance it and maybe even how to legitimize it so that the government actually benefits from the corrupt activities that we're involved in.
Agreeing with what Geoffrey was saying earlier, let's just accept and move on.
No, Geoffrey was saying give up. I'm not saying give up. I'm saying let's hype up the participation.
Well, I will appreciate what you are actually doing, you guys. If all Kenyans can tune on your station, I think we'll get moving better.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
It's unfortunate. have a good day. Thank
You too. Have a good day in Mombasa. From Embakasi, Hillary, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Fine, thank you. Hello to you guys there.
Good morning.
Hello, Hillary.
Hello.
So,
Hello.
Are we fighting corruption, Hillary?
No, we are not fighting corruption in Kenya. In fact, corruption is in our DNA, especially our leaders. Even if you look at the laws that these people are making, for example, the BBI. If you look at keenly BBI, it's only to support them and also give them the upper hand on how to take care of the corruption, to take care of themselves. Because at the end of corruption that they have been doing over the past years. Because
But the common man has participated by electing these people.
You see, but we are saying that we are electing these people, but in reality, Kenyans just vote, but the election, these people, they just choose themselves.
Hapana bwana. You want to tell me from MCA to the president, no vote counts?
Because from the party nomination, these people are friends. So a common man may want certain person from the party, right from the grassroots.
Yeah.
But because this guy, a certain person knows the leader of the party, he's being chosen. It's not because he's being chosen not because the people want him, because the party leader wants him. At the end of the day, because the common man votes, Kenyan people vote on party issues, not on integrity of people.
There you go. So the Kenyan voter is participating, but their participation is basically already skewed. They're not putting thought into it.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
At the end of the day, they just keep on cultivating corruption. And we have to stay with it, I don't know for how many years, unless we have a revolution to change this thing.
Okay, let's hear from Dolo in Kisumu. Dolo, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Are we fighting
but not
corruption?
As much. Yes?
You're doing well, but not as much.
Not as much because of the level of corruption that has culminated in this country. To me, I believe that nepotism and perhaps bureaucratic corruption and the belief that this is part of us is one of the ways preventing us from eradicating corruption to totality.
Why do you pick on nepotism, if I may ask?
Just the way Geoffrey just mentioned base. This is one of the things that Geoffrey did mention, that my brother or a person from my tribe has engaged in corruption. So I feel that if the person is fought, then we are being fought as a community. I want to say that is not part of it. That is indeed a part of corruption that we should all not be part of.
You see, when you say nepotism, it's showing favoritism to someone who's related to you in say, a job situation where people are being employed. But I have to ask this question. Are we then saying that one should not help their relatives?
No, we shouldn't. If at all, if they are credible enough, then they should own maybe the tenders or the jobs that they suit. But when we do that, we are favoring them in a way, then that is corruption, sir.
You know, if you take the argument that I'm putting forward to its logical conclusion, there's something called affirmative action, where you deliberately place, for instance, for a long time in this country, if you came from a certain part of the country, to be accepted into, say, a national school, you are allowed to get a lower point. They allowed you because of the disadvantage that it was assumed you had. So would you say that is corruption because you have deliberately ensured that people have a level playing field, knowing the disadvantage that they have?
Not that.
Okay.
So that is different from what... Go on, Dolo. Go ahead.
Yes. Now, on the bureaucratic corruption that I mentioned as the second point herein, look at the level in government and governance. You know, there are protocols and procedures that have to be met. Hello?
Yes. Go ahead.
So that, for example, you see, look at what is now happening with the signings of different receipts and books, so that maybe we call it this thing with cancer. I understand there are some.
Okay.
He was making a point on KEMSA. Maybe he'll come back. 0719-012-600. What do you think? Are we fighting? Are we winning this war on corruption? So, leaders elected get to positions of authority. You're supposed to do something, for example, enact laws, make sure that those institutions that are fighting corruption are well-resourced so that they can fight corruption. But it appears that it's a deliberate effort being made to stifle them of the resources that they need. So we talk about fighting corruption, but in real sense, you give Chief Magistrate Douglas Ogoti nothing, not a researcher. And he's the chief magistrate fighting corruption. And you're talking about, the evidence being produced and adduced before him. He's talking about figures and numbers and laws and multiple jurisdictions.
And the institution he works for has only 200 investigators. Yeah. And this is supposed to cater for the entire country. I know that there was a mosque and the religious leaders in Mombasa, Muslim leaders, they refused to conduct the burial prayers for a certain gentleman who was known to be a drug dealer. Refused outrightly. And there are mosques who will decline to have someone come to the mosque when his activities are known. You are barred. You're told, no, don't.
Even as we're looking at all of this, I'm trying to imagine, is it about fighting? Is it about even having... I don't think there's an interest to really, from the powers that be, to really purge this country of corruption. Is there an interest in the first place?
No, but...
To really purge
why
of corruption?
Purge something you benefit from?
That's what I'm saying. There's no interest because there are so many benefits that you get from having corruption take place. You want to call it something else. You want to call it doing favors for your family members. You want to call it about including everybody in the business of government. Whatever it is that you want to call it, there's no interest in getting rid of it because you benefit more from having it than getting rid of it. And even one you want to say is, should we have a different way of fighting it so that you look at things like plea bargaining? But all that does is encouraging more people to get into this pot. It doesn't work, if you ask me, to say, okay, to get people to hand over money, because the argument could be that when you're fighting corruption, what you're actually trying to do is to get people to return the money that they stole in the first place. Actually, when you're fighting corruption, you're trying to make sure that you create a system so solid that people are not willing to look for ways that they can fit through the cracks and steal public funds.
Did you hear what the Chief Justice said?
Yeah. Chief Magistrate.
What do I call him?
Justice.
Hey, my mind has really gone in all sorts of directions this morning, hasn't it?
Yes.
There's something he mentioned about laws. Okay? Says you'd like to do something, but there's no law. So you can't actually move.
Yeah.
You may want to, you may see it, but there's no legal framework within which you can actually do what it is that you want to do. Now, we know where laws are enacted, don't we? Okay? That's hence my question. So when we talk about bottlenecks, we should leave the judiciary out of it and point to Parliament.
Yeah. Yep. That's where it is. What is it that Parliament is doing? Does it understand that there are things that it can do?
They do.
When they look at laws being brought or proposed amendments to the laws being brought, do they actually sit down and interrogate them very well and with a clear conscience decide that yes, this makes sense, or no, let's not pass this? Or is it looking at, so what is this going to do to us in terms of our participation in this corruption? If you hear that members of the Senate are being mentioned in the KEMSA probe, if you hear that members of Parliament have been mentioned in the same KEMSA probe, some of the suppliers are linked to members of Parliament, and then it's the same parliamentarians that are investigating this, where do you expect this to go? And what is it that we are saying that the fight against corruption shall be won? Because we have strong institutions that are able to fight corruption. Really? Are we honest with ourselves? 12 minutes to 7. No, to 10. 12 minutes to 10. Time for a break. We'll be back shortly.
Spice FM.
It's getting hot in here. Oh, everybody steals. It's better a thief who brings something small back. And I say to myself, there's no better thief. A thief is a thief, period.
All those bribes, how much they're getting per year, how much inconvenience they're causing, as much as you call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted.
The truth is, we are a tribal nation. Because if we were not tribal, and I want to go back to this, you cannot continue walking around with a mug which is clean outside and it's rotten inside.
We have become a Fuliza country.
We have mortgaged our country because of debt.
You've got one chef working and the assistant chef wakati anatakana koroge suka koroge unga nini hayuko.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
Okay, so it's 11 minutes to 10 o'clock. The conversation continues right here on Spice FM. So what is it that we're doing in the fight against corruption? 0719-012-600 is the number to call. And also, you can participate on Spice FM KE on Facebook, on Twitter. Okay? This is where you can post your comments. So, the role of Parliament, oversight, and legislation.
Yes, and the role of our parliamentarians.
And the role of the parliamentarians, the individual parliamentarians themselves and what they play. So when we see very many of these cases, you hear constantly that, parliamentarians and they have confessed, some of them, they receive bribes in the toilets. Then you see that parliamentarians, when you have cases like these, parliamentarians are actually trading with government. So they are involved in subverting and corrupting the system so that they can win the tenders. So who then is going to watch when the person who's supposed to be the watchman is the one who's letting in the thugs? Or is actually even dressing as a thug themselves and participating in it.
Not even hiding. I mean, as they say, hiding in plain sight. So that's what I'm saying, that there is no interest whatsoever. If there was, you would see, it would be very clear how it was. You would have people sitting on those committees calling their colleagues out. You would see that names were put up. Look, when the Senate rejected, just an example, when the Senate rejected this investigation that was done by said committee, what were they asking for? Name the names. Name the individuals who were involved in this. Don't just say that some funds somewhere are misappropriated. Name the names. So you can see there's still that whole culture of saying, okay, yeah, maybe some money got lost here and there. You know very well who it was that's sitting in that position, but you don't want to name them. Why don't you want to name them? Because number one, you could benefit in the future, or you benefited from the same deal. Already you benefited. So you know the reason why you don't want to call them out. The culture of acceptance of this nonsense is the reason why you're not going to be able to get rid of it. Are you fighting? No. Is there an interest to fight? No. If there was, you would be able to see a more robust and more vibrant approach to this thing that we are seeing
You'd
today.
see change.
You would see change.
You see, the thing that seems to be the currency that's at play is hypocrisy. And those who are charged with these duties seem to have no problem participating in hypocrisy. Somebody will come and tell you, supposedly, seriously, supposedly well-meaning, says, this thing we must. And you hear some strong talk. Oh, and Bishop Ondera said it very well. Strong sermons. Then nothing. The nothing bit is my addition. He didn't say nothing. But strong views. We must fight this. We must do this. Then you have a tipping.
Thus says the Lord.
Yes. Fire and brimstone sort of like message. And then thereafter, you have this tepid conclusion that leaves you wondering, okay, so what was all that about really? And as for the way forward, you see, when you have someone who does their job, like, say, the Auditor General, for instance, that office, this country has been very blessed with the Auditor Generals, because we've had Auditor Generals who say what they find for the longest time. And even in times when it wasn't popular to, they would. They simply issue and say, this is what has happened and this is how we see it. And they point it out. Now, imagine if other state officers, for instance, just did their job. Nothing extraordinary. Just do your job. That's it. Why is it that we wonder, and why is it that every time there is a complaint that the judiciary is against the government? Because you get the impression the government thinks that every case that is taken against it in court should be lost and they should win. So if there is a judgment against them, then it is argued this person is anti-government. I've never had this argument that, the law wasn't followed in this. No. It is this judge doesn't like the government. because we still have that mindset that when you're in authority, you shouldn't be questioned and you can't possibly be wrong because you're in authority. And when you question someone in authority, it is you who is wrong. It is you who is subversive. That mindset of years gone by, yesteryears, has not left us. And so the same with the corruption. When you speak out against corruption, what is the matter with you? And you're speaking out against corruption. So many people prefer, as I said, to keep quiet. And you're right and do. When you keep quiet, you're participating in actually exacerbating it.
Omission is commission.
Yeah.
It is.
You are. You can't say you have not stolen, and yet you never speak against it when you see it being done. Partly it's because I think people understand the consequences and they know. And they don't want to deal with the consequences. So they'd rather just avoid it.
Just avoid it.
Yes.
Avoid this whole topic altogether.
They won't steal anything, but they will not get involved in speaking out against it and pointing it out. They'd rather just avoid getting involved completely.
Just say, Ainihusu.
Yes. Or you say, did it really happen? And it happened.
Of course,
Look, if you wanted to know if this thing was truly being fought, if there was an interest, look at what Honorable Ogoti said to us this morning. There's no law. We're begging the Parliament to enact a law that would allow us to do certain things, because you can see the way the law as it stands right now.
You won't move.
You won't move. That's why Kenya's asking that these things take so long. We want to see the big fish slaughtered, etc., etc. The law is the inhibitor in all of this.
That's the reason why I
legislators are sitting in a position where they can amend the law.
Before we fight the legislature completely, that's why I brought in the National Council on the Administration of Justice, which is, and he also brought in the court users committees. The people who are actually right there in the engine room, in the heat of it. If you find that there's certain laws or amendments that you require, pass them over to Parliament. Parliament will not start off a law without actually understanding that this is what you need. So the people who are in need, if the court users committees, if the National Council for the Administration of Justice is not recommending and going to the state law office and saying, we'd like you guys to push through this kind of amendments to the laws or introduce this kind of bill to the law. Bills are introduced to the law through who? Through government or through private members. So if you're not going through the government channels and saying, these are the laws, these are the amendments that we require, you cannot really just sit back and say that Parliament takes 100% of the blame. Even those who are in the system, some of them do not want to see changes. Some of them maybe benefit from this. So the court users are the ones who should be saying, this is what we require. Let them have a direct and robust debate on how best then can we have a law that functions, that serves us perfectly. Then take it to Parliament. And then tell us we took this thing to Parliament and MPs
shut it down.
Yeah, shut it down.
People who fall into the category of what you're referring to as court users are unlikely to join that bandwagon. Because there's also the anticipation of what the future may hold for you. Now, you don't want to be party to enacting a law that may harm you when you're in that beneficial position where the absence of that law is as clearly of great benefit. The culture of corruption is precisely that in our country. It has become our way of life. And we haven't gotten to the point where it has bitten us adequately in areas it shouldn't bite for us to start feeling we need to do something about it. Until it does, we'll talk about it, but we'll likely not do anything serious about it.
It's all talk. Yes. And as long as this government is a very big, bottomless drum full of money that we
and it
can all
isn't
dip our
bottomless.
hands.
It isn't bottomless. There is no government that is bottomless when it comes to money. There's none.
We just keep getting money out of it. Anyway, so coming to the end of the show, today's proverb and why?
Well, today's proverb, you see, the culture that we've been speaking of corruption actually involves the shortcut that people are willing to take through stealing so that they can become wealthy. Now, wealth by its very nature has to be created. Theft doesn't create wealth. Theft is simply that taking. Now, when people do business, that's the other thing they do. They create wealth. There's something that you do that brings about that wealth, whether you've invented it, whether you're selling something, whether you're manufacturing, whatever it is that you do, whether you're providing a service. Now, when you think that there is a shortcut to things in life, I'm saying that mindset will serve you for a short period of time, but life has this amazing tendency of catching up with you. And usually, at the time when you least expect it, and it will involve people whom you really least expected it to involve.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right, have a good day. Now, there's something that's happening in India, and the World Health Organization is convening an emergency meeting because of this unidentified disease that has so far killed one person, hospitalized hundreds, and they're trying to figure out, okay, so what is this? An unidentified virus begins to spread like wildfire. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called on citizens to stay at home and wait for an official statement. Why? Because another 10,000 people have been hospitalized in the southern India following the reported unidentified illness. 150 already admitted in the ICU. Sasa ni nini? We just finished 2020.
This on top of COVID.
Yeah.
Can we finish
2020 and that thing? Aye. Have a good day, folks. It's coming up to 10 o'clock. We'll see you again tomorrow morning. CT Muga, Eric Latif, and Nduoko wishing you a lovely day. It's now 10 o'clock.